Way to start the podcast, Carly. Jeez.
We are going to get ourselves cancelled off YouTube this time. We are talking about some really pretty sick stuff, unfortunately.
Yeah, well...
but it has to be talked about.
Interestingly, hang on. What camera's died this time?
Oh, no.
No.
The wide. Oh, there it is. What?
Hang on. Is it... Hang on. I got it, guys. I got it.
But it pops back up every time.
I think it's this. Is it just a loose wire or something?
But because whenever it cuts to the wide shot, it shows up again down there. But it's like it drops out every time. It's not actually using that shot.
Is it just wobbly wires?
I doubt it.
It's a bit weird. I was going to say, everything was literally working perfect.
Yeah, well, once it cuts back to there we go. Look, it's there.
So it's there. It's just not showing.
It just disappears off. Yeah, that's weird. That's a weird glitch.
Honestly.
But it's working.
So we've upped the gain on your microphone as well because, boy, did we get in trouble for you not being loud enough.
I'm terribly sorry, everybody.
Can I just say, guys, it's not the microphone. Topher does this.
Look, I move around. I blame the ADHD or whatever the fashionable thing is at the moment. I've got that thing. You all have to feel sorry for me, okay?
Oh, can we just get through one episode of the Oddcast where you guys aren't ripping into us for the way that we do it?
No, because honestly, the haters. So you know how on social media you see all these posts from like nothing pages and they've got misspelling in them. There's an obvious spelling mistake.
Yeah.
You know that's on purpose, right?
Oh, to get the rage bait?
Yeah, because people go, oh, you couldn't even spell it right. But that then feeds the algorithm.
Maybe that's what I need to do.
So we are rage baiting people with technical glitches to make them send us hate mail and feed the algorithm.
Right.
Yeah. There's an entire industry around analysing which mistakes give you the best returns in terms of interactions and click-through rates and responses. They are making those mistakes on purpose, and everyone pointing out those mistakes is falling for it.
Do you know what's actually really funny? This is so off topic, but when are we ever on topic? I saw a post this morning and it was like a hacker or someone had outed who this page was. And so the page, I think it was like Red Pill Media or something. It looked like a right-wing page.
Sure.
And then they said something and then this person's like, yeah, right. And then the guy was Abdul from Pakistan. And he had the email and everything like that. So half of what we get outraged and upset by on the internet is probably not even real.
And honestly, if I had the time to sit down and understand how to use AI and bots properly, you know, there are people that make these faceless YouTube pages or faceless online pages.
Yes.
I would pick the most contentious issues and then make 2 or 3 pages on each side of every issue and just rage on each other, hate on each other, troll each other's content, just absolutely spew as much vitriol as possible at your other faceless page because you're not going to get sued, are you?
No.
And at that point, you will develop a huge following, which you will then be able to monetize. Now, I'm not that cynical, but I reckon there's got to be people out there that have already done that.
Well, as someone who's literally studying AI, can I tell you, like, it's worse than we all think it is.
Yeah.
It is so much worse. Can I ask you a quick question?
You always do.
Because I've adjusted your gain,
Right.
I think the auto scene is changing very quickly.
Okay.
Is this something that I've done?
Well, no, because there is a setting in there for how quickly it's going to cut. Now, I actually like it cutting quicker. I think it holds on to shots for too long normally. So I don't mind what it's doing. But
is
there
that
is a setting.
this thing there? Let's look at it. Is it? Because I just changed that. It was on 5.
Yeah.
So
that will be. No, that'll be the hang if you. No, okay. So you're not in the multi-camera section. Can you go to the multi-camera section, the auto switching section?
Yeah.
And go through to next. Get started. Neutral. So we're currently set to a neutral speed. You can go fast, you can go neutral, you can go
relaxed.
Yeah, relaxed is slow. So I hate relaxed. I have mine set to neutral, but I actually prefer fast. But when I put it to fast, some whingers in the comments complained.
I was going to say, we get whinges every time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you can't. You guys are impossible. We cannot keep you happy.
Feel free to tell me what I'm doing wrong again, guys, because I can't bloody win.
But I tell you, I am liking the fact that I'm getting a bit more screen time with this, he says, as the camera refuses to switch to him. With this game turned up, I do feel like I'm getting a little bit more love. But come on. There we go. All right.
That's what we were trying to do. We're like, okay, we're just trying to... And look, the thing is, this thing is so fidgety. Like, you just need to keep tweaking it.
Yeah.
And it changes. And
it is still infinitely better than us having to sit there for 4 hours after the show and edit it ourselves, which is what we were doing. So I will take the foibles of this any day, and they'll do software updates and all sorts of things over time anyway, but I will take this over what we had to do previously.
Oh, this is remarkably better.
Yeah.
Yeah, very happy with this. So we also get told off because we don't get into the podcast quick enough.
Yeah.
I know. I'm like, it's called the Oddcast.
Yeah,
guys.
it's called the Oddcast. We literally just pointed a camera at the conversations that we were already having. Right?
This is not a news show. If you want the headlines and the bulletin.
We are letting you in to our friendship and the way that we enjoy chatting to each other. Like it or don't.
Yes. Okay. So have you got some good news?
I do, actually. My good news first is I have some water here that I haven't spilled. I did not spill. And I put it on the table I didn't bump the table at all.
As you proceeded to whinge about the furniture, though, so it doesn't matter.
As if I'm not going to whinge. This is where my audience gets it from. They get it from me. I am the problem here.
You set the precedent.
Exactly.
Everyone just follows suit.
The fish rots from the head.
Yeah.
No, my good news is, as of this week, so I've just finished interviewing people. I am putting on a team of people that is going to help me to take over the world.
Excellent.
Editor, admin person, and a social media person. Under the leadership of someone who's come on board the Topher project in a leadership role, in a management role, so that I can just focus on researching, reading, understanding the world, analysing things, and then creating and writing the scripts and recording the videos. And then other people do all of the other stuff that I don't have to do. So I'll be able to do more, faster, but actually with less of my time involved, so I can spend more time with the kids and get back to having a bit of a life.
That's important.
So over the next 2 months is going to be kind of the bedding in period, and assuming that everyone works out well and we don't have to go looking for replacements, etc., assuming that all works out, by the end of this year, in conjunction with what we're doing with you, the big redevelopment of all the websites and the tech and the brand and everything else, come next year, my project to take over the world will go into its sort of full-on phase. And I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I think getting team is a sign that you're growing. And even though it might be feeling like there's some, what do you call it, teething issues or whatever, ultimately that means you're moving, like things are going.
Well, and also, I can't do this as a one-man band. No. I can't, people say to me, Topher, you've got what it takes. You're one of the best we've got in Australia. You're good enough to mix it worldwide, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's all nice, and that's good for my ego and all the rest of it. But I can't actually get to that level without a team getting me there. Any of these people, I laugh so hard when people are like, oh, but Russell Brand just has a camera in his little meditation studio and he just turns that on and streams to the world and he's got a huge audience. Joe Rogan, it's just him and Jamie. Like, oh.
If only.
Oh.
If only. As the producer here at the Oddcast, I can tell you, this podcast, I love it. Yeah. I really do love it, and I want it to do well.
Yeah.
And that's why we need you guys to share the show, and I'm going to keep reminding you of that 100 times today because we didn't get that many subscribers last week.
That was one. Okay.
Yeah.
Got
so
99 to go.
No, it's just so much time.
Yeah.
It's probably 20 hours a week at the moment.
So there was a behind the scenes moment. It was a couple of years old now, but I laughed so hard when I saw it. Russell Brand turned his camera around at one point or had his phone and put it up on social media, sort of showing you the rest of the room. There were about 12 people in there with him, right? And that's just the people that are on set with him making all of that work. When we were in ARC in London, we saw Jordan Peterson working, and he's got this team of people around him making sure that he is walking seamlessly from one thing to the next thing to the next thing so that they are squeezing maximum
he
screen
actually
time.
Only has to think about one thing.
Correct.
That's the hardest part because, I sit here on Tuesdays is typically the day where I go through the news and I read up.
Yeah.
Like I see, like we all do, I see things through social media scrolling. Yeah. It's like, okay, to do the Oddcast, I really need to read and know what I'm talking about, at least so I understand it.
Sure.
That takes you a day. If there's 8 breaking stories and you want to understand it, you can't just go, oh, yep, got the headlines, cool, let's go.
But wasn't it fascinating watching him? Because we walked in and this was your photography was the reason we were in there. I was there as your handsome assistant. And so we walk in and he was already doing something.
He was Piers Morgan.
No, he was Piers Morgan. Yeah. He hadn't started recording with Piers yet, but they had him all set up with this beautiful camera and the laptop and the streaming and this background. And then he sat and he recorded with Piers for about, half an hour interview or something like that. Then they chatted for about 15 minutes afterwards because obviously they know each other. And once they finished with Piers, it was your turn to set up, and you had about 10 minutes to set up as quietly as possible, get your stuff ready. And he stood up from Piers. One of his EAs came straight across to him, said, "Okay, Mr. Peterson, over here. This is Carly. You've met her before. She's photographed you in Melbourne. We're going to do some more photographs." Oh, okay. And it was as if he didn't even necessarily know that that was in his day.
No.
Because he didn't need to know.
No.
He just needs to go to the next thing that's put in front of him.
Yeah.
And then while you were photographing, you remember they brought in the big round table and they had all the microphones
Yeah.
around that. There was some other podcast that Jordan was going to sit down. And obviously that podcasting crew had brought their set and brought their people to Jordan.
Yeah.
And then he walked out from your set and straight onto that. And it was just one thing after another.
And that's the way it has to be because, they're so booked up and they're trying to do all these things and you need to have the least amount of friction as possible.
But the reason why they do that is so that when they're off, they can be off. They can actually switch off, spend time with their families. They're cramming that work into such a tight schedule when they're on so that they can be off when it matters, when they need to. And there were at least a dozen people in that room at any given point in time.
Yeah.
Multiple people taking phone calls, going in and out, deliveries arriving and delivering things, taking things out, all to make his day as productive as possible.
Yeah.
Keep him in front of a camera for as many minutes as possible over the course of that day.
Yeah. I've realized that too with the way that I work, like between the podcast, my YouTube, masters and my business, like at times it just feels like you're jumping from one thing to the other and it's all up in the air. And I was like, no, I need to start setting designated days. Like this is the only day I do this.
Yeah.
And if I can't do it that day, it has to wait till next week.
Till next week, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to sort of triage. So the idea basically is I'm building the core of a team that's going to be around me, that's going to make it possible for me to spend more of my time just doing the core stuff that only I can do.
Yes.
Now, it's not that no one else in the world can do it, but no one else in the Topher project
can do
do the research, the analysis, and the on-screen work.
And that's what takes the most time, the research
and so
the scripting.
The editing is time-consuming as well.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big time sink. So for me to get it down to the point where that's all I'm doing, because one video at the moment takes me about 5 hours. So in order for me to have a weekend, because I've been trying to release 3 videos a day, 2 videos a day, 7 days a week, and then a segment of the Oddcast as a third video each day. Now, I haven't managed to do that for the last month or so, but if you go back to April, I was successfully doing that. Thing is, I was working 15, 16 hours a day during the week and then some on, working at 5 hours or so on a Saturday so that I could take the second half of Saturday and all of Sunday off and have all of that content coming out. Having an editor is going to pull a few hours per video off me. Having an admin person is going to pull a few lost hours away from me. Having a social media person is going to increase productivity on social media and take a few hours a week away from me as well, so that I can sit there and maybe in 9 hours a day, I can do the 3 videos instead of 15 hours a day. I can do the 3 videos. And that way there's 2 new videos coming out every single day, including over the weekends, which is the objective. That's where I'm trying to get to consistently. So, yeah, that's my good news is we've taken a big step in that direction. We've found people that we will be offering all of those roles to and hoping that they will start early in July. And from there, it's sort of a couple of months later, we'll be locked in and ready to go.
How exciting.
Yeah,
and you're going to even look better because obviously...
Well, you're going to take my photographs and then do like lots of Photoshop and stuff, and I'll look amazing.
Well, now I'm very proficient in AI. I don't even have to try.
You didn't even have to take my photo. You can just tell AI, here's my old photo, make it look better.
Yeah, amazing.
Make him not look sort of like he's 43 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My good news is just on my master's project, I've written 5,000 words of my thesis.
Very cool.
I submitted you got to do all these assignments along the way. I've submitted all those and I'm actually really pumped with the work that's coming out at the moment. Can I show you something?
Yeah.
I'm going to show you guys because I talk about it and I know most people I have no idea what she's crapping on about half the time. So
That's not even when you're talking about your masters.
Right? Touche. Let me pull it up. So my whole thing is talking, like I said, about beauty standards, right? So I'm essentially taking a photo. So what I'm going to do is pull this bigger.
Are you going to share
yes,
it with
I am. I'm just trying to not show the porn that I had up on my website.
Well, that's because that's what we watch when we're not recording. That's,
exactly. So I was just trying to be
behind the scenes. No, that is for a story later. That's
yeah. So you guys are going to see inside my computer now because I can't. All right. So this is my original photograph. So this is a photo I've taken of a model.
Yeah.
And my whole argument is there's obviously in commercial.
Okay. Pause. I can't do this. What is going on with this shadowy version of us? Is that another setting that you found? Is that something that you did, or is that coming from your computer screen?
No. That's a setting in this, and I actually don't know how to fix it. If someone knows.
No, it's actually super cool.
Oh, you like the...
It's awesome, but I was just weirded out by it because I haven't found that setting. Once again, for the second week in a row, you are outdoing me.
It's something to do with overlay.
Okay.
So
Well, it's on and it's going to stay on. So
Oh, so you like it?
I don't mind it.
Okay.
Like it's for this episode, it's going to stay on. We're not going to go digging into the settings now.
Yeah.
Because that would be riveting podcasting. Anyway, tell me. So this is the original photo.
So this is the original photo.
So when you say original, you mean that's how it came out of the camera without any, because you shoot raw, etc.
Yeah,
So
that's the raw photo.
Yep, okay,
that's
cool.
literally like, so what you have seen, obviously she's wearing makeup.
Yep.
There's lighting,
Yep.
all that sort of stuff. So this is not commercially retouched. This is the raw photo.
Yep.
And what I'm arguing is that AI, through us editing as commercials, as commercial photographers, and now with generative fill. So generative fill is an AI plugin in Photoshop where you can circle something and just replace it or remove it.
And it's incredible. Power poles disappearing out of backgrounds of shots and all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Correct. So this is my edit, right? So this is in Lightroom and Photoshop where I've color graded.
I can't see the difference.
Of course you can't, because a good retouching should look like I was never there.
Yeah.
What you probably haven't noticed is that her lips are totally different.
Oh, wow. Yes. Okay.
And so are her eyebrows.
I'm jealous of that curl in her hair, by the way.
Yeah.
I have really luscious curls, but I keep my hair too short for them.
And we bullied you so that you cut your hair short.
That's
yes.
right. I'm jealous of that curl.
None of us want to see those curls ever again.
The things I suffer.
So what I started playing at here is this is generative fill. So I've changed her lips and her eyebrows, but it's so subtle you wouldn't even notice.
I still would have thought that was a genuine photograph.
And that's how insidious that AI can be. You would have no idea.
Yeah.
And then obviously I'm pushing the boundaries, right? So now we come across to the next version, which is this one.
Yeah. Okay.
Totally different face.
Yeah.
I've replaced her makeup brush with a pencil.
Yeah.
And then the final stage of this is
lizard skin.
Bringing her to life.
Yeah, right.
And as you can see, AI mucks up hands all the time.
Yeah. But still.
And then this one is So I'm creating fake women and bringing them to life.
And that's been brought to life with the face that wasn't hers.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And I've got heaps in here. I won't show you them all, but this one's probably my favorite for a couple of reasons. So I'll show you the original. So
how long before you can just type in a prompt and it'll just spit out a 2.5 hour podcast of Carlz and Topher?
I hope
like how long before I can just sleep in and I can watch my own podcast in the evening and go, is that what I said?
I can't wait. No, I actually enjoy doing this.
This is fun. This is the highlight of my week.
So this is another one. So as you guys know, I'm using the tarot. I'm not going to go into it. I don't want to bore you guys. I just want to show you what I'm learning and doing through AI.
Sure.
So again, this girl doesn't exist. It's a photo I took, but her lips aren't real. Her eyes aren't hers.
Yeah.
And this was done for a couple of reasons. One, there's an ethical element. I don't want to make judgments about people's faces of real people because that could not be good. Don't want to give people like problems. And then the other thing is just showing you how easy it is to completely manipulate photos without knowing. And so this is, like I said, that's the edited version. And then we bring her to life. And
yeah, wow.
So I asked AI to make her cry.
Okay.
And that's what AI did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and I'll explain a little bit more in a second. I'll bring up this one. Is this the one where she's breathing? Yeah. And she starts to cry. So just remember, this woman's not real. This person doesn't exist. The whole thing's fake.
Yeah.
And so that is essentially where I'm at. I'm doing lots of, like manipulation, lots of, just taking people through the journey. And my whole argument is with AI unchecked, the way we're all embracing it, is we've cast AI as the antagonist and it hasn't created the problem, it's inherited it. Because for the last 15, 20, you could say 30, 40 years.
So you're saying you're on the side of the computers. You're on the side of the machines.
Well, no, I'm saying
they're
that
the victims here. That's what you're saying, isn't it, Carl?
What I'm saying is that we are our own worst enemies. We are teaching the machines our flaws and our problems. And the more people divulge to ChatGPT or any of these things saying, oh, do this, do that, this is what I'm worried about, let's fix this. People are really good at being vulnerable on their computer screen behind,
You know what it is?
What?
It's a dementor.
It's a dementor.
I'm not even a Harry Potter person. I'm so proud of myself right now.
I'm so shocked that came out of your mouth.
It is the place where your nightmares come to life. where the things you fear the most
Yes.
become real. That's what AI is.
I'm going to read you my artist statement because I'm very proud of this. Okay. And I promise you guys, if you're getting bored, like we'll get to the podcast.
We'll get to Iran destroying the world in just a sec. Don't you worry.
This is a really big deal for me. And I like that I'm allowed to now start sharing it a bit. So thank you. Okay, so my artist statement is, as generative AI systems evolve at exponential speed, their understanding of the human face becomes increasingly distorted, shaped not by reality, but by the curated illusions we voluntarily submit. Each filtered selfie, each digitally perfected portrait becomes data. In feeding the machine, we teach it what we collectively have deemed desirable. In this recursive loop, we are not passive subjects, but willing agents in our own quiet self-erasure. That mole removed, the lips plumped, that asymmetry corrected, those intimate markers of genetic individuality are overwritten by a growing aesthetic homogeny of smoothness, symmetry, and sameness. Ironically, we cast AI as the antagonist, yet it merely reflects the ideals we have already chosen to pursue. My project, Chimera, is a reckoning, a visual mediation on our complicity in training the algorithm to forget what it means to look uniquely human. AI did not invent these ideals, it simply inherited them.
That's brilliant. I hate it.
Yes.
That is so disturbing.
Yeah. And I won't read you my bloody thesis. It's long. But essentially what I'm arguing is that we're blaming AI. Everyone's like, oh, it's the machines, I'm like, no, what AI is doing is holding a mirror up. Yeah. We are actually doing this to ourselves. So...
Well, I'm glad we didn't decide this was going to be a happy podcast because that is not a happy way to start.
Yeah, and like if you guys are actually interested, I would love to talk about this more. I don't want to bore anyone, so if you don't want to hear it, I won't say anything today. But if you want to hear it, like put it in the comments, and I might do a video about it on my channel.
All right.
But yeah, can I read you one thing about the dystopia? This is just something to think about. I do talk about the hope. But I want to talk about the consequences just really quickly because we are actually going to talk about some deep fakes and some AI stuff that's happening.
Yeah.
So this is just how it looks like for artists. Where are we? If I go back up here, I just got to find it. So this is what I'm essentially saying will happen within the next 5 years. We're going to cross the ultimate threshold where dystopia stops becoming speculative fiction and becomes something far more intimate, almost banal in its familiarity. Sadly, this inevitability is already on our doorstep. By the year 2030, artificial intelligence will no longer need us to feed it our selfies or curated expressions. It won't require input from human subjects at all. The technology will synthesize its own models, composite faces that have never existed, idealized forms detached from lineage and paired with personalities that update hourly based on which version receives the most engagement. And perhaps the most confronting part, this won't feel foreign or invasive. It will be seamless and relatively comfortable. It will be quietly and sadly become the default mode of our existence. Those who choose to opt out will be viewed less like an act of rebellion or dissonance, but more like a bizarre act of self-sabotage. The burden will shift from choosing to participate to having to work consciously not to. We're moving towards a digital paradigm where the boundaries between fiction and identity, reality and aspiration are not merely blurred, they are erased entirely. And what this means is we're going to see fully synthetic influences. Everything's made up, none of it's real, and we can engage in the world as our synthetic influencer without having to actually participate physically at all. And we are going to see emotion adaptive avatars, which will observe us through our devices, tracking your face, your emotions. And then what they're going to do is remodel themselves in real time to appear more trustworthy, more flirtatious, more dominant, more submissive. And this is actually already happening. As a matter of fact, this is a quote from a tech article. An average mobile phone now comes equipped with communication modules, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, etc., and an array of sensors like accelerometer, gyroscopes, temperature sensors, etc., and significant computational power. These built-in sensors can be used to deploy unique applications that were not possible in the past. One area which sensors have been used to perceive a user's emotional state. By capturing a user's current emotions, a device could intelligently personalize the user's experience. Such technology could support applications in many domains like social media, healthcare, and social networks such as Facebook and Twitter would be able to respond differently to users based on their current emotional state. We're already saying that. It's already happening. It's already in your phones.
Yeah, well, right now it's happening. It's happening in the algorithms by reacting to the very first things that you interact with. You open it up, you start interacting with something, and it goes, oh, okay, and it heads off in that direction. But this is what this is saying is you'll open your phone and it'll know from your facial expression, from your hand temperature, from a number of other sort of haptic inputs that's your emotional state. Yeah.
I won't go on anymore, but there is some hope. But unfortunately,
is it a giant meteorite?
Because
I would vote for that.
I'm hoping dinosaurs.
What, the giant meteorite comes back with, like, instead of, so what you're saying is that the dinosaurs weren't wiped out by a giant meteorite. They went for a bus ride. And when that meteorite comes back, it'll have all the dinosaurs on it. Is that what you're saying?
You already know they're trying to bring back the woolly mammoth.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, they're doing all that. Yeah.
How long until they bring back T-Rex?
Look, they'd love to. But, I mean, look, we've made multiple movies about that and it worked out fine. So,
this is the thing. I'm like, we've made the movies, guys.
Yeah.
Why are you playing with this stuff? We know how it ends.
They were so focused on whether or not they could. They didn't stop to ask whether they should.
Yeah. That's Jeff Goldblum, right? Yeah. At this point, anything's possible. I don't think it'll be a meteorite. I think it's going to be a nuclear weapon.
Well, look, I mean, and hey, according to the Ayatollah of Iran, it could be tonight. But we'll get to that, I'm sure, in due course.
You have to have some sense of humor because otherwise this gets really dark real quick.
Yeah. This is why survivors of actual wars and civil wars and so forth, natural disasters tend to have very dark humor. It is a genuine coping mechanism.
Yeah, it's the only way to get through it.
It's also, by the way, why times of war give us our funniest comedians. It's no coincidence that Charlie Chaplin, etc., Three Stooges, when you look at sort of where they came out of, they became huge during war, or they came out of that and they took the life experiences they gained in war and turned that into comedy. And our entertainment becomes very light and fluffy during wartime and becomes really dark during good times.
Yes.
And you'll notice during the 90s through to sort of 2000 and teens, we turned all of the superheroes dark. All of the movies got darker.
Yes.
And that was the trend all through that time. Well, that's because historically that was a really good couple of decades. We didn't really have a lot of trauma or drama in our lives, and we went looking for it in our entertainment. I suspect the entertainment for the next 10, 15 years is going to be comparatively fluffy.
Excellent. I don't wish World War III to happen, but as I always say, every podcast, when you look at history, what comes out the other side is quite collaborative, quite a reset, and I do think at some point something is going to have to happen to cause that reset. I don't think it's going to happen on its own. Yeah,
and there are too many vested interests to let it happen peacefully. I mean, I'm trying to avoid going straight to the Iran-Israel situation right now, but I will. It seems to me that is a perfect example of a deep state war.
I agree.
Where they sat there and said, hang on, Trump isn't a warmonger. He didn't start a war in his first 4 years as president, the first president in my lifetime to do that.
But we need a war.
Yeah, we can't go another 4 years without a new war. Afghanistan is wound down. Ukraine's not really giving us what we need. We need a war. We need that money. And so they've turned around and gone through back channels, it would appear, without the knowledge of Donald Trump. And they've goaded Israel into a strike. Yes, the narrative is that Iran were days away from having a nuclear weapon. Well, that contradicts an intelligence report from only 3 months ago where the US intelligence community came together and they reported that they did not believe Iran was actually actively working towards nuclear weapons. Let's not forget there is an extensive monitoring regime that does go on. So they do have information from inside the country. And before people mock that, have a read of the book Saddam Defiant. It was written by Richard Butler. I read it some decades ago. And that was all about him as one of the head UN nuclear inspectors in Iraq. And he talks in detail about the lengths that Iraq would go to try and avoid the inspections. They would request access to a site and it wouldn't be given to them for 3 months. And then when they arrived, it would have been just freshly cleaned and swept and completely empty. Oh, this whole warehouse is just sitting empty the whole time, but we couldn't let you in for 3 months. Kind of nonsense. Yes, there are games that get played. We know what those games are. And when the US intelligence community comes out and says, we don't believe that Iran are actually going to be capable of a nuclear weapon in the foreseeable future because they're not actively working on the right things to get there. And then 3 months later, we're told they're days away from having a bomb. We have to do a preemptive strike. It feels to me like the military-industrial complex. Let's not forget that President Dwight Eisenhower, former commander of US forces during World War II, turned president of the United States. He personally turned around in his parting address from being the president of the United States and warned against the military-industrial complex and the fact that they would have an appetite for endless war. We have a president who is days away from potentially starting to normalize relationships with Iran. And then all of a sudden this preemptive strike comes in. It feels, I'm not saying that Iran are the good guys. Multiple things can be true at once. I posted about this on the other day on my social media and people jumped on, but Iran, is chanting death to America and death to Israel. Yes, that's true. Multiple things can be true.
The Ayatollah are chanting that. The Iranian people are not chanting that.
There is a proportion.
Yeah.
The people that want to be in the good books of the Ayatollah are, but there is also a strong revolutionary streak in Iran. Let's not forget the Ayatollah has power in Iran because of the CIA. Let's not forget this is another Afghanistan. This is another Osama bin Laden. These people were made by the CIA with American taxpayer funds and now have turned on the CIA, and with good reason in my opinion. But this actual war, this actual moment of conflict, sorry, it's going to piss a lot of people off, but it looks like a deep state war to me.
I unequivocally agree. None of this adds up. All of it, I was going to go through the topics, but we're here. Let's just embrace. I'm going to regret saying this, but Netanyahu's a warlord. Sorry. I think he wants the war. He's cheering the war on. And that's not me saying that Israel's bad. I want to be really clear with my sentiment here.
Yeah.
I don't think this has got anything to do with the people of Iran or Israel. It's got to do with, like you said, it's just deep state. It's just concentrating power, moving money around, and flexing muscles. And I've said this to Gareth. We've talked about this extensively. Because everyone paints Putin as this bad guy. Not to say that he's a good guy. I'm not saying that. Like you said, multiple things can be true.
Multiple things can be true, yeah.
I understand these people. I have met plenty of men like this personality type, which is bombastic, very egotistical, right? Trump is very easy to understand. Putin, very easy to understand. Both of them care more about their legacy than anything.
Sure.
The way they are perceived, the way that people interpret what they're doing, that matters to these people. So that makes it really easy to understand and plan their next move.
Sure.
Neither Trump or Putin want to be known as the person who pressed the big red button.
Yeah.
They just don't.
Yeah.
Neither of them want that on their legacy.
I'm just gonna hit that.
Oh, sorry. Oh.
There we go.
I was going to talk about Tulsi in a second.
Well, okay, but you can switch back.
Okay.
Just like we're riffing.
We're riffing. Sorry. I can't rant and run the.
So let's talk a bit more about the Bibi thing, because this is really interesting. And I think Zelensky is another example of a similar kind of situation where
useful puppets, or
no, Bibi's more than a puppet. Okay, I'll give him his due. He is a genuinely intelligent man, and I think he's done some great things along the way. But he's also now been in and out of these positions of power for decades, working very closely with the United States intelligence community, because they have collaborated very closely in the past. And if the deep state wanted a war, they could very easily go to Bibi and say, hey, listen, just quietly, off the record, this has been approved.
Yeah, okay.
Right, we're not going to say that it's been, but off the record, you really need to do this. And by the way, we've got the intelligence to back this up. Bibi might be the bad guy, or he might be being used as the patsy in this case. Yeah. Was he aware that Donald Trump was going to come out and say, I didn't approve that. That was all done without me. What was the line of communication? What was the back channel? Bibi's been in that world for decades.
Yeah.
Would have a lot of people that he would trust. And if they chose to break that trust for their own purposes on this occasion, I think that would have worked.
Yeah. My frustration with all of this is that the rest of us, your average citizen, is just cannon fodder.
Correct.
And this is where, I'm very, very choice with my words around the whole Palestine-Israel thing, whatever. I think that Hamas is evil. I think that a lot of things around fundamental Islam is evil.
Yep.
It's inherently incompatible with any civil rights, any human rights.
We'll get to a bit more of that in a minute.
Having said that, do I want to see people being mercilessly killed and eradicated? Of course I don't.
Yeah.
I'm also, sorry, I don't know what I'm seeing. Everyone's like, oh, look at the videos. You don't know what you're looking at. None of it. This is like a social media war as well.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to get engaged in that war porn and feel like your heart's coming out of your chest.
Yeah.
But to be honest, half of it's probably either sensationalized or not real.
We know of actual fakes. So there are proven fakes that have been released by Hamas and by the Palestinian authorities to say, hey, this is what the consequence of Israel's actions were. Sometimes they were actually a misfire from a Hamas munition. Sometimes they were completely staged.
Yeah.
And we have behind the scenes footage, other angles and so forth showing the sort of the direction and the making of that piece of propaganda. And what happens when you do that is the same thing that happens when Amber Heard falsely accuses Johnny Depp. Well, now all of a sudden, because we know that the fake exists, we can't just trust everyone and everything else. And so the efforts to win sympathy through fakes in that particular conflict has unfortunately caused us to have to be skeptical about everything, including the stuff that is real.
I think it's also making your average person incredibly cynical.
Yeah.
At this point,
and
people...
desensitized.
Yes. Desensitized. And I have a real issue with people sharing the Palestinian thing on social media for a couple of reasons. Now, I understand why people are doing it.
Sure.
They're like...
And human suffering is terrible. And caring about it is good and can put my cards on the table, and I think you'll agree with this. I regard the Palestinian Authority as a terrorist organization, but the people they primarily terrorize are the Palestinians.
Correct. Their own people.
That's my position.
Yeah. And I do believe that a lot of their population serves a purpose.
Yeah.
They don't care about their population. Like I said, it's cannon fodder.
Yeah.
But what I have a real issue with is the way that people approach conflict like this. People who, and look, I want to be really careful with my words. I'm not trying to say that you're an idiot. No, I'm not trying to talk down to people. What I'm saying is people who, like literally 2 years ago, didn't know anything about this conflict and now self-confessed experts. And everything that comes up, they jump on it. They've got to share it. This happened. They just killed 7 babies. Oh, my God, they've just bombed this.
What just happened to the 18,000 people that were going to die within days?
Right.
What happened with them? Sorry, if that was real, we would have video footage of all of those bodies in the streets. Where is that?
And then you see the footage of the Palestinians breaking into that Hamas warehouse and finding all the food. And and my point is with this is like, it's really hard for me to go on social media, see a photo of someone's dog and then an update of them in their new dress and then a child like amputated. And then the next thing it's like a sunny day in bloody Europe. And then it's like, oh, here's another child dead. It's jarring, and it's ultimately actually not helping the cause, because what you're doing is normalizing this kind of terror to the point where, like you said, people switch off from it. They disengage. Yeah. And I think there needs to be an avenue where people can express their concern and their outrage. Yeah. But the way we've weaponized this whole Palestinian thing to be like, again, it's just virtue signaling. It's become a social justice issue. I'm not saying that those who care are bad people, but it's been weaponized, just like Ukraine was weaponized, just like Black Lives Matter was weaponized.
If you care about that more than the suffering that is happening in Australia, which, okay, that kind of suffering is not happening in Australia, I get that. But you can do something about what's happening over here. Right, if you're all about that and all about caring and bleeding for that, but you won't lift a finger for the old lady down the street or the homeless person.
Well, no, you've just nailed it. You've actually just nailed the problem. Is the lifting a finger part is where they draw the line. Yeah. It's really easy, and I'm sorry, but it's so easy to just share some war porn on your socials. Yeah. It takes literally nanoseconds to just share and write some little ranty post. Actually getting off your butt, putting your phone down and going and, I don't know, volunteering at a food bank or going and volunteering at something and helping, that takes effort.
Well, do you remember the greatest in history, the greatest social movement that led to tens of thousands of people getting on boats and planes and traveling to Africa and assembling a citizen army and taking on a terrible warlord who was enslaving children? You remember that? It was the Coney 2012 campaign, and it went massively viral. And remember, hundreds of thousands, millions of likes, people making videos about how evil Coney was. And remember how they had that day where everyone was going to get together and protest, and then out of that we formed a citizens army and they went and they defeated Coney, and now Coney will never be able to terrorize children again. You remember how that ended? Yeah, it didn't quite end like that. It ended with nobody showing up.
Correct.
Because crossing that barrier from the digital world to the physical world, even just showing up in a park, was too much for all but about a dozen people. Yeah. And yet it was the viral sensation of that year.
I want to simplify it, just like take it away from war for a second. And I see this all the time. Like I am a keen observer. I'm a photographer. And I actually want to do a piece on this. You know how you have like these little personal projects?
Sure.
This is something I'd like to tackle. And that is just how self-focused we are in our own worlds. Like we always think that people are thinking about us, they're judging us, criticizing us. No. People are so self-absorbed. They're so focused on themselves that they walk past everything. So I'll give you an example.
I would argue that thinking other people are thinking about you is pretty self-absorbed as well.
So
it's
like,
on both sides.
Yeah,
you know.
But you know what I'm getting at.
We're all self-absorbed,
yes.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. When you go into either a it started in the supermarket. You know how in some, like they're not all like this, but a lot of the freezer or the cold sections have fridge doors on them now.
Sure, yeah.
And people will go in there, open it up, grab their thing and leave the door open and walk away. Or you walk down an aisle and like a pack of pastas fall on the ground.
Yeah.
or they've reached for something and the yogurt fell on the ground and it broke and they've just left it there. I've turned this into like I just keep taking photos and watch how many people just walk past it.
Yeah.
Now, it would take literally a nanosecond to just close the door. But you don't do it because it's not your fridge. You're not paying the electricity bills, so who cares?
You're making me feel really good right now because I do it. And I do pick up the stuff. And I find that thing, if it's not a perishable thing and it's in the wrong spot, I'll take it back to its correct spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get so angry when you see like a pack of chicken in like the Mexican food aisle and someone's just like, oh, I don't want that. And they've just chucked it on the shelf. Yeah. That enrages me.
What I absolutely love, and it doesn't happen very often, but it makes me laugh every single time. And I don't know if people do it on purpose just to give someone else a giggle, but when you see like a broccoli in a bag sitting on the shelf in front of all the potato chips, and you're like, a decision was made.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. Like, I see this a lot.
Broccoli down, chips out.
Yeah. And like I rotate between, I go to Carlz for the points, but Woolies our closest, so it's the most convenient. But then we go to Aldi to save money. So it's like, you know, we kind of go to a few. And
you're a hussy, is what you're saying.
I am a supermarket slut.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just something I've noticed, and the fridge thing enrages me. Like you watch them do it, and then they just walk past. It's no different to the public toilet.
Yes.
How disgusting are public toilets? Like, do you behave like that in your own home?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But in the public toilet, the shared toilet, that's where you exhibit your worst behaviour.
The tragedy of the commons. I won't bore you with the narrative on that.
He's got a bloody term for everything.
If everyone owns it, no one owns it.
Okay.
And so no one looks after it.
Yeah.
Because, that's not my job. That's somebody else's job. But the thing with all of that, with your broccoli and your fridge doors and that sort of stuff, it's long been regarded that one of the simplest and most common indicators of who somebody is whether they will take the trolley back if there isn't a coin. Right? And I don't mean to brag, but I don't just take my trolley back. If I go past other people's trolleys on the way to getting my trolley back, I'll grab those and put them all in as well. And it's just one of those little things. And I think, out of little things, big things grow. If you want to know who you would be in a big crisis, when a big demand is made of you, observe who you are when a small demand is made of you.
The best bit of advice I ever got, right? And it was, that quote that the standard you walk past is the standard you're willing to accept.
Sure, yeah.
And it's like, it's not how you do the big things, Carly, it's how you do all the little things.
Yeah.
That is
how you will do the big things when those times come.
That's all that matters. And, it's the same expression, take care of the cents, the dollars will take care of themselves. Yep. All those things. It's all in those little 1%ers. Yep. And this whole supermarket thing, I've been subtly taking photos. Got to be careful. I don't want to put people's faces in them. So I'm not trying to be creepy, but it's just more of a document. It's just more like, we whinge about these massive, big global things. And I'm not saying that they're not important, right? Like, just be really wary. I'm being mindful that people don't clip this and be like, she said this. I'm not saying that doesn't matter. But yet you can't even get the basics right. Yeah. You can't even put the chicken back.
Yeah. Don't tell me how much you care about that if you won't do anything with this. Can I just observe that we went seamlessly from nuclear apocalypse in the Middle East
to
chicken on the wrong shelf. And it all made perfect sense all the way through.
Bloody oath it does. We're good. We are good.
Now, I don't mean to alarm anybody, but this may be the last ever episode of the Oddcast because the Ayatollah of Iran has made a threat. Would you like to take us through that?
I will. I didn't even get to have my telling people what's going on, but I'll bring it up. So can you explain who the Ayatollah is? I don't think many people know.
Supreme leader. So religious leader. So in Iran, religion and state are not at all separate. The state leader is the religious leader and vice versa. There are a lot of other clerics and all the rest of it as well. But yeah, this is basically the dictator of the sultan of the tsar of whatever, the king of whatever language you want to use. This is the guy. And these days, the guy has access to social media.
I've got a video here. It's not come from necessarily a well-known account. So hopefully I'm not sharing something that people are going to be like, meh. But I'll show you this. So this is...
Whoa, Inception. Okay, there we go.
I've done a thing too, by the way. We'll go here and we'll go here. And then this should... So,
Yes.
This, so I love grok. The surprise statement from the Iranian state media on June 17th, 2025 is confirmed by Newsweek warning of a memorable event.
Now, this could be pure scaremongering, pure fearmongering, chest beating.
Like it.
I don't like it. I don't like it. And their night, because have you got the actual statement somewhere there?
I'm trying
to... it's not in English, obviously.
Yeah, well, the problem is because I obviously cannot speak Arabic. I actually don't know these bona fide outlets.
So basically, Iran is saying that, or the supreme leader of Iran has said that they're going to do something tonight, which is tonight Iranian time, which is now. We are recording during nighttime Iranian time.
Iranian TV, a surprise tonight that the world will remember for centuries is on the way. I don't like this.
No, I don't like it either. Now so it could be a nothing burger. It could be posturing. It could be chest beating. It could be that he's going to launch some missiles at some American assets or bases in the Middle East, and that's his, that's as good as they've got. Or it could be, let's go full disaster scenario, that they've had sleeper cells in the US or other countries
and they're going to activate them.
Backpack nukes situated there for 15 years, and now they're gonna send them out.
My issue with threats like this,
all of that is possible.
You don't, like, if you were Iran, I'm just playing the logic here, and I could be wrong. You don't make idle threats because then it waters down your threats. Right? It's like the boy who cried wolf. So they can only play that card a couple of times, then people go, oh, shut up.
See, the last part of what you said is true. They can only play that card a couple of times. But the first few times, it is very effective. It causes...
No, that's what I mean. Like,
even people like us. I mean, the Oddcast are even talking about what the Ayatollah said. I mean, this will go down in his diary as like a great day for Iran.
They talked about
us on the Oddcast. But idle threats are absolutely a part of a dictator's arsenal of options. So this could very well be that. But
well, that's what I'm saying. So like if it is just like a threat and there's nothing behind it, the next time they do it, that's the worry. It's the whole boy who cries wolf thing. But
so Iran has been able, through its proxies in Yemen and elsewhere, they've managed to put a hole in the USS Cole a little while ago. They've managed to do a couple of other bits and bobs. And obviously, yes, if you're in Israel or in the Middle East, you're within range of their missiles, and they've got a lot of those, and that can be genuinely deadly and horrible. But on a global scale, we are not aware of, and the intelligence communities are not aware of them having backpack bombs, dirty bombs, sleeper cells, this sort of stuff. That would be a surprise if that's what this was. And they don't have anything capable of
create a relaxing home with oil garden.
Sorry.
I'd love to create a relaxing home. Thank you so much. What a great idea. They don't have the...
You get fired.
Yeah. They're not sitting on some Russian intercontinental ballistic missile that we don't know about. They're not about to hit, Washington with that. So for me, it's kind of like, okay, sleeper cells inside Israel, maybe. Sleeper cells inside the US, yep, possible. With the capacity to really do some full-on proper damage, I doubt it.
Yeah,
I really don't think so.
Did you see the footage? I was just trying to pull it up, but it was behind a paywall. It is on X. That the Iran state media TV was bombed as she was saying that Allah is great and we won't get bombed, and then
And then, got bombed. Yeah, it's unfortunate. That's not great timing. It reminds me of the comedian who was on stage saying that she'd been like double or triple jabbed, and she'd just finished saying the words, Jesus loves me more, because she was saying how she hadn't had a reaction, and then she collapsed. Did you see that? And you hear the sound like the...
bang.
Like that is a proper, she is gone.
She died, didn't she?
No, she didn't. No, she made a full recovery. But
to be spreading misinformation.
Like that was not a part of the show.
No.
That was a proper, your brain just dropped out kind of a moment. So yes.
Was it an aneurysm or something, or?
I don't actually know. I did enough research to confirm that she was okay. I think she had to take a couple of weeks off, and she made a full recovery, and she's fine. I do wonder if she still does that joke.
I wonder if she humbled herself, because this is the problem with a lot of people. Sometimes they're too far gone, and they can't even see the humility in the situation.
Yeah.
But back to nuclear war.
Yes.
I want to play this
from comedians to nuclear war. This is the Oddcast. This is like our ultimate.
This is how it works.
This is our ultimate episode.
Yeah. Like you guys are like, stick to the plan. What plan? There's never been a plan.
Where we're going, we don't need plans.
Oh, we haven't even shared that yet.
We haven't done that. No, we will.
I want to play this by Tulsi, right?
Okay.
Because remember, she's now head of intelligence.
Yes.
So
I'm so jealous of her hair.
Yeah.
Like, who doesn't want like that kind of a contrast streak naturally in your hair.
Like, I like
I'm
Tulsi.
talking a lot about women's hair this episode, I've just realised. Curls and...
Sure you haven't turned on me? Or if you were going to be a supervillain, though, that's how I do my hair.
Oh, my goodness, yes.
Anyway.
I recently
gorgeous.
visited Hiroshima in Japan and stood at the epicenter of a city that remains scarred by the unimaginable horror caused by a single nuclear bomb dropped in 1945, 80 years ago. It's hard for me to find the words to express what I saw, the stories that I heard, the haunting sadness that still remains. This is an experience that will stay with me forever. Yet this one bomb that caused so much destruction on Hiroshima was tiny compared to today's nuclear bombs. The bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima had a yield of just 15 kilotons of TNT, whereas today's nuclear warheads range in size from 100 kilotons to over 1 megaton. A single nuclear weapon today could kill millions in just minutes. Just one of these nuclear bombs would vaporize everything at its core. This is the reality of what's at stake, what we are facing now. Because as we stand here today, closer to the brink of nuclear annihilation than ever before, political elite and warmongers are carelessly fomenting fear and tensions between nuclear powers. We must reject this path to nuclear war and work toward a world where no one has to live in fear of a nuclear holocaust.
Give me some context around that. What's the? I mean, obviously, I can understand the message of what she's saying with the nuclear weapons, but what's the political context within which that's been released?
So this happened today.
She released that today.
I don't know if she released that today. She released that a couple of days ago.
Okay.
But essentially, someone on Air Force One with Donald Trump, the press, was saying that Tulsi said in March during a judicial hearing that Iran didn't have a nuclear bomb and it wasn't worth.
That was the conclusion of the intelligence community. Yeah.
Donald Trump literally came out yesterday when someone said, "Oh well, Tulsi said this." Donald Trump said, "I don't care what Tulsi says. They shouldn't have a bomb."
Yeah.
And so that's made everyone go, "Hang on a minute, there's been a fracture again."
Yeah, maybe. Trump is very bombastic, but if you go back to 2016 when he won, before he was inaugurated, I did a lengthy blog post about Trump and what to expect. One of the points that I made is that he's quite emotionally driven.
Just sorry to add clarity, that video of Tulsi was posted on the 10th of June, so
a week
8 days ago.
Yeah. He's quite emotionally driven, and this is one of his biggest weaknesses. He's very clever. He's very insightful. He knows how to play people, all the things that we've talked about before. He knows how to negotiate, how to get what he wants, blah, blah. All of that is true. He's also emotional. And that can cause... That can mean that you don't know for sure what he's going to do when the 2 a.m. phone call comes. Now, that's what gives him his edge against Vladimir Putin, Xi Jinping, Kim Jong-un. They don't know. Could Joe Biden actually push the big red button? Nah, I don't think he's got it in him. Could Trump? Well, he doesn't want to, but you fuck with him long enough. Right?
Yeah.
And you go, whoa, hey, whoa, hold on.
Yeah.
And that's why we saw them play nice with Trump 1.0, 2016 to 2020. There were no new wars. Everyone played nice.
Because everyone's like, well, maybe he's crazy enough to press the button.
Now, I think it's the American deep state that has not played nice.
Yeah.
In this particular instance, obviously, October 7th, Hamas attacking is an entirely different kettle of fish, but that happened notably under Biden's watch. Now we've got Trump in charge. Trump, Iran's going to play nice with Trump. The deep state sit there and go, we can't have another 4 years with no new wars.
Yeah, we need to make some money.
They flare this up. They start this up. But now Trump gets emotionally activated, right? They're defiant. They're saying things. They're making threats. This is activating him at that emotional level. And that is a worry. That is a weakness of his. I've been talking about that since 2016. I don't think it will. My opinion is, and I'll say it now, even though I might get proven wrong within just a matter of hours because it is nighttime in Iran right now, my opinion is that whatever Iran is threatening is not going to have geopolitical significance. It will have regional significance at most, or if it is outside of the region, it'll be very, very minor in the grand scheme of things.
I want to play you this.
جمهوری اسلامی به پایان خود رسیده.
You're out of control.
I am stuffing. So now that just so you guys know what's going on, last week we didn't have the audio coming through, so we were playing the videos without the audio and had to turn the microphone around. I figured out how to add the audio,
Which is
and now
brilliant, by the way.
when I'm trying to line up the video to show you, I'm fucking up.
Yeah.
So sorry.
So yes, we are at a delicate moment here where an overreaction from Trump is not out of the question.
Yeah.
That is his strength in negotiations, is that he's unpredictable, but also he is unpredictable. And a situation like this where his intelligence community says to him, no, they didn't have a bomb, but he gets caught up in the emotion of what's going on. And he goes, no, this is it. We've got to deal with Iran. That is a possible outcome from here.
I want to add some more intrigue because, to be fair, I actually don't know much about this at all. I know what happened in the 70s. I know the Islamic regime took over and all that. I know that. But I'm going to play you a video by Reza Pahlavi, who is the son of then Prime Minister Mohammed Mossadegh. I'm going to get that wrong. Mossadegh. You read it.
Mossadegh. Yeah, Mossadegh.
He's the outed prime minister from the 70s. This is the son.
Yeah.
And he was overthrown by the CIA-led coup.
And just for anyone who's wondering, this is not some anti-American conspiracy theory. This is a matter of historical record. The CIA themselves will tell you they ran a regime change operation in Iran that was successful. They overthrew the Shah, and they overthrew they had an electoral system there under that. And the CIA installed the Ayatollahs and the religious rulers that we have to this day.
Yeah. And in doing so are responsible for repressing
women. I mean, you go back to the 70s, go back to pre-revolutionary Iran, have a look at what women were wearing. Women were in university getting educations.
Iran in the
60s, just to get it before then.
Oh, then and now, the Iranian revolution. So you guys can see this. This is what Iran was like. They could go to the beach. They could wear...
Zoom, because we can't see as well as you can.
Yeah.
Try doing that in Iran now. I mean, don't literally try to do that because you will get into a lot of trouble.
But, these are Iranians in the 70s.
Yep.
And if I type in Iran now and then, let's see what we get. This is Iran now. They have to wear the hijab.
Yeah. And this is a product of Team America World Police.
Yeah.
This is a product of America saying we will decide who gets to run which countries. They did the same thing in Afghanistan. They did it in Iran. They did it in Iraq. Let's not forget Saddam Hussein was their ally against the Iran that they created when they overthrew the Iranian government. They have created disaster after disaster. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not joining the Iranians. I'm not saying America's the great Satan. We've lived in a wonderful era of prosperity and peace because of America, but that doesn't mean they're always and everywhere the good guys.
And this is where things get really difficult because obviously, there's part of me that's like, I've grown up in a Western country where we were the good guys.
Yeah.
America's the good guys. But there's so much nuance to war, obviously. There's part of me that just sits here and goes, you're all monsters. Because it's not them who die. It's the civilians. It's the regular people who don't want a part of this.
It's old men dreaming up wars for young men to die in. And I would argue that the last just war was World War II. Mm-hmm. But even that you have to qualify because towards the end of World War II, Americans started setting up the French partisans who had been the French resistance against the Nazis. A lot of them were communists. A lot of them were opposing fascism because they were communists and they believed them to be opposites. They're not, but that's what they believed.
Yeah.
And America could already see the Nazis are going to be defeated. It's now just a matter of time. And they already then said, well, our next enemy is the communists. We're racing the Russians to try and, we want Berlin, not them, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That whole race was on. And so they literally would send partisan French resistance fighters who were known communists into traps to be murdered by the Nazis, into unwinnable situations. They would tip off the Nazis so that the Nazis would kill a bunch of these partisans who had been risking their lives and fighting to liberate their country against the Nazis all the way through. But the Americans had already moved on to the next war.
Yeah.
They were already saying, well, you're a communist though, and we want you dead. So even within the context of what I would argue is the last just war that we've seen in history, in terms of a large-scale conflict, there's been plenty of smaller ones that I don't know enough about. But in terms of a large-scale conflict, that was the last just war. And even that contains a lot of action, yes, including on the Allied side, that is very morally questionable at best.
It's hard. It's really difficult to try and get your head around it. I don't think we don't ever have enough information. We might have it in hindsight. But right now, like, you know what's interesting? This is a weird thing to conflate it to, but I've been watching the Diddy trial, right?
Right.
And it's getting to the point where they're sort of wrapping it up and the prosecution is just laying on all the evidence now. And it's getting to the point where it's like snowballing.
Yeah.
And they were talking about the jury. I've been watching this YouTube channel called Law and Crime, I think it's called. And they're basically just talking about it. And, you know, the expectations on the juror, because it's a jury of your peers. These are just regular people who are sitting there watching, like they had to watch some of the videos. They had to see some of the footage. Yeah. And they have to be stoic because there's all these expectations that they can't react, and because, you know, it's a courtroom and whatnot, and it could throw the case. And I was just thinking there going, imagine sitting there, just regular Joe Schmo, got 2 kids at home, just, you know, normally you're, I don't know, accountant, and now you're watching like a horrific gangbang and watching potentially like sexual assault. You know, it must be so just like, oh my God, I don't know enough about this to be able to like understand firstly what I'm seeing and then be able to sit here and give a verdict on this. It must be really difficult. And that's what I feel like this is.
It'd be pretty traumatic as well.
Well, that's what I feel like we're all doing right now. We're all jurors. And, you know, I'm not saying that we can't get emotional about it, but I do think we have to develop some stoicism here because I don't think any of us know what's going on. I think we like to think we do.
Sure. And also compassion fatigue is a real thing.
Yeah.
Where, you know, it's a well understood thing.
Fatigue is the word of the moment.
Well, fatigue, yes, but compassion fatigue is something that's well understood in, let's say, nursing and medical circles, where you get presented with so many people in pain, so many people suffering, so many people enduring whatever it is that they're enduring, and you have to be stoic.
Yeah.
You have to be the one that carries on and does your job, and you do have to switch off to that to a certain degree. For some people, that turns into a callousness.
Yes.
That turns into a disregard.
Yeah.
And compassion fatigue can cause people to become, you know, pretty horrible to people that are in that moment of need. And I can understand why people get there. I'm not judging, but there comes a point where you have to go, okay, you need to step out for a while. You need to go and refine your compassion in that soft spot. And I think the same can be true with social media. When you find yourself in that situation where you're scroll holing and, oh, there's a dead kid. Oh, that's a nice dress. Oh, wow, I'd love to try that burger. Right? When you find yourself in that moment, maybe if you're not reacting anymore, you need to step away for a little while.
But I also think that those who are sharing this stuff, a lot of them are social media influencers, for lack of a better description, and they might just be like, normally they're a fashion influencer or a food blogger, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, you know, here's some dead kids to look at.
Yeah, they want the clicks and the clout.
Well, they want the reaction. They're sharing it, you know, in their defense, I think they're sharing it because they're like, oh, you know, I'm outraged, and I get it.
The vast majority would be, yes.
Yes,
yep.
But there's a responsibility. If you've cultivated this audience and then you just throw war porn at people, I think that's irresponsible. I really do. I'm not saying you need a trigger warning. What I'm saying is you need to be like, all right, I actually want to step up. I want to start using my platform. I'm going to tell people, I'm going to start doing this. I'm just letting you know I will be sharing some confronting things. You have every right to unfollow me at this point.
Yeah.
Like, do it, like, just, don't be so callous with the way that you do it. Like, look, I'm talking about Palestine. I'm a great human. Yeah. And then in the next breath, like I said, you're buying your Louis Vuitton bag. You're going and having cocktails somewhere. It just doesn't seem
it's completely
morally
incongruous.
Right.
So war porn is out, but the good news is, Oddcast viewers, rather than listeners, we've got some actual porn for you a little bit later. I think that was in the show notes.
Yeah, it was, because none of us know what's going on. This podcast is just like,
it goes wherever it goes.
Well, I'll play this and then we'll wrap up the Iran thing. Okay. So this is what I've had on the screen 400 times now.
I love that of the repeating screen.
So this is the Sun, right?
Okay, yes.
He's speaking in Farsi, but I won't play it. But basically he's saying that the Islamic Republic has come to its end and it's collapsing. What has begun is irreversible. The future is bright. Together we turn this page in history. Now it's the time to stand up. It's time to reclaim Iran. May I be with you. So the reason I wanted to share this is because, again, conflicting information. Everyone who already hates Israel because of Palestine is now jumping on Iran and saying we want to defend the Ayatollah.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
And the interesting thing is, like people have short-term memories. Yeah. Just 2 years ago, there was that woman who was murdered by Iran for not wearing a hijab. Yep. And there was all these protests around that, right? Because, you know, they can't go out in public without wearing the hijab.
Yep.
And so the Iran people want a revolution. These people actually want to be liberated.
Yeah.
They're cheering on the collapse of the Ayatollah. But then you've got the Westerners with their bleeding hearts, these liberal tears coming out and saying, no, we know what's right for you. And that's why I guess I'm just saying, like, let's everyone just take a fucking step back.
Yeah. Well, they say that women are oppressed in Iran, but actually a journalist went to sort of research that over time. And 20 years ago, he went to Iran and saw that, yes, the men in the family with the boys would walk ahead, and 20 meters behind there's the woman in the burqa with the girls. And then when he went back more recently, he couldn't help but notice that actually now it was the women who are actually walking, still in the all the headgear, but they're actually walking out the front with the girls. And then about 30, 40 meters behind them would be the men with the boys. And he actually went to one of them and he said, I can't help but notice this change over the last 20 years. It's amazing, this sort of social progress. What happened? What caused this difference that now the women walk in front? And the man looked at him and said, landmines. Wow, that didn't land at all for you, did it?
No, I got it. I got it. I was like, are you being serious?
No, of course not. This is the Oddcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Wow, thank you for that validation.
Yeah.
But no, the reality is women are absolutely disposable over there. We get outraged exactly like you said.
Yeah.
Oh, women's rights, etc. And now all of a sudden, because it's Israel that
Is
they're
that a real
fighting-
thing?
No, it's not a real thing. It's a joke.
I was like, that was really dark.
Yes. Dark humor from people who've been through trauma.
The reason I say that is because I've been to Cambodia quite a few times and landmines are a real thing.
It's a real
and
thing.
I was just like, whoa.
So, but you're absolutely right. And this hypocrisy that's on display now, where all of a sudden, because Iran is specifically fighting Israel, now we're going to reflexively side with Iran. Iran must be the good guys here. And this is the same with the Palestine conflict. They say that they're pro-Palestine. Actually, they're just anti-Israel.
Yeah.
They say that they're pro-Iran. Actually, they're just anti-Israel. That's all this is.
I'm going to bring up one more thing and then we're going to move on to the next topic because we'll be here all day. But
Because I might go for another joke. And
I was listening to you and I was like, hang on, that could be real. That's the scary thing about your joke. Like I was like, hang on, he might be accurate here. So, this is from the UN, and I know you guys are going to be like, it's the UN, but, I'm just bringing it up for this. What's going on in Afghanistan today? No one's talking about it because apparently we're only selective with our outrage. You want to talk about oppression of women? This is it. This is like barbaric.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I hear just the smallest snippet about Afghanistan, I just feel rage and like, I don't know what to do about that rage, by the way.
Yeah, well, there's nothing you can do.
I'm not posting cute little things on my Instagram about it because it bothers me so much that it's boiling my blood. This is a problem we created.
Correct.
This is Westerners' fault.
Correct. And can I segue? I mean, obviously what the women are enduring there is horrific. We can't change that right now. Can I bring up another group of people that I think are in Australia and deserve some thought, and that is the soldiers who went in good faith because they were told they were going to go and make a difference. They were told that they were going to go and help these people, liberate these people, bring freedom to these people. They got involved in combat. They've got all of the trauma of that, the bullets that came at them and also the bullets they sent the other way. There's trauma from both. Some of them are physically injured. All of them are mentally changed in one way or another. Some of them lost body parts. Some of them lost best friends. And then we threw away everything that we said to them that they were fighting for. I mean, if you suffer a great loss, but you can see a purpose in it, there is a pathway to dealing
You can reconcile with it.
It's easier to reconcile.
Yeah.
We took that away from these men and we said it was all for nothing, all that sacrifice, all that pain. We've thrown it, not we, Joe Biden threw it away in a hastily, badly thought through withdrawal that was just about done in the worst possible way you could imagine. And now the fate of the Afghan people to whom we said we were bringing freedom is worse than it ever was before. By the way, we've abandoned the translators, the sympathizers, the people that helped us and all of their families.
They're probably all dead now.
They're suffering terribly if they are alive.
Yeah. I know. And that's what I mean. Like, when you just get so enraged, there's nowhere for that energy to go. And every time I think about Afghanistan, I just think about how quickly people moved on.
Yeah.
It's not trendy.
Yeah.
There's no cute flag to wear. There's no cute protest to go to.
But the reality is we can't fix what's happening in Afghanistan. We can be there if you know someone who's a veteran, if you're involved in any of that space or if you want to be. There are people out there that are absolutely hurting.
Yeah.
because they are looking at that and they feel a level of
I was used.
Yep. They might feel shame. They might feel betrayal. They might feel any one of a huge array of things.
They've probably got
all of that's
relationships
valid.
with Afghanis who helped them.
Probably, yeah.
Who they can't do anything about. And, I've spent some time in the Middle East. I've been to, as you guys, I've talked about this before. I've been to Syria before it was taken over by ISIS and things like that. And, it's really easy to paint things with a broad brush and be like, Islam's bad and fundamentalist and all that sort of stuff. And I stand by that. I agree. But for the most part, in Egypt, for example, most people just are so excited to meet an Aussie
at a
or
human
something.
level.
And they just want to share their cuisine with you, their goods with you. And I've told my travel stories, there's always someone's out to get you. It's fun. It's harmless, right? There's sinister stuff.
It's harmless until it isn't. Yes.
Right. There's some sinister things, of course. But for the most part, when we were in the Western Desert, we were in a caravan of Bedouins and we were on camels and then we're in cars and we're running around. We're going to these super remote oasis towns where they're just so excited to bring you into their home, share some tea with you. It's bloody 50 degrees outside. What else are you going to do? You're in this mud hut and there's this kid who's just excited, they've never seen a white person before. And there's moments like that where I just think, that it's wholesome, right? Not to say that there's not bad,
but that's also what you're talking about there is that human to human interaction. And at a human level, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's the governments
and the thing
that get us into trouble.
When I was there, it was 2008. It was the height of the Iraq War. So tensions were high. And I think I've told this story. I was in the Iraq region and, it was really hard. I was 22. And so I'd heard all these terrible things, war, bad, bad, bad. And then, you see it from the other side and you kind of, it's destabilizing because it sort of makes you question oh shit, I don't know. I was really young when I was there. And this is my point, it's all very easy to get caught up in the ideology and also the social media stuff that we're sharing. But I think so few of us recognize that this is honestly human to human. And in our quest to demonize the other side and make an enemy, so it's easier to justify your actions, we are forgetting that there's so many people that are caught in the collateral that are human.
Yes. Well,
God, this is dark.
Yeah, we probably need to move on from this.
We do.
But all I want to say, first and foremost, is that if we're going to have World War III, let's get on with it. Because
let's just start smoking meth. Well, it might be more fun.
My son is too young to get drafted, so can we just get it over and done with before he's old enough to get roped into it? That'd be great.
And G's too old to be drafted, so
there you go.
Yeah, perfect.
Well, no, they could change the draft. There's plenty of countries that draft up to 60 years of age. But let's just get it over and done with while my boy's still a boy.
I don't like this. I don't like it. Well, how do I recover from this? Okay, so back to my show notes. Now that we've
Tell us all about what's happening in the show, Carly.
What are we, an hour into it?
Hour and a quarter.
Okay.
What's this show all about?
So I've actually called this theme. I can't call it this on YouTube because you can't swear. But the theme of today's episode is fuck around, find out.
Okay.
And the theme I want to talk about, because you actually talked about this.
That might apply to Iran as well, but yes.
Well, this is actually where I think we're at, as a world. We've been through the fuck around era. We're now in the find out era.
Have you been reading my social media?
No, because you posted this literally the day after G and I had this conversation. I'm like, he's bugged the house. Topher's getting his material from me.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you. And
I'm like, because you literally put it up and I was like, you did not.
Yeah. No, but I could not agree more. We are in the era of find out.
I have got evidence to show this.
I look forward to it.
Before we got onto the podcast, I actually cleared this with Topher because I was like, oh, God, this is a dark one. And I know everyone's like, Carly, if you bring up OnlyFans one more time, but I have to do it. Because Bonnie Blue has been banned from OnlyFans. And
don't tell me OnlyFans have standards.
Apparently they do. Apparently
I'm
even
shocked.
for OnlyFans, obscenity can get kicked off.
Okay.
But that was one of the segments, and I ran it with Topher, and I was like, do you want to talk about this because it gets pretty dark? And he said yes.
Fine.
Abby Chatfield has quit social media.
Yay, again.
Tattle life. We haven't really talked about this before.
Yes. These are the people that like to think that they're like changing the world by gossiping or something.
It's not gossip, man. These people stalk, harass, degrade. We'll go into that because I'm included in this. Clarkson's farm.
I love Clarkson's Farm. I just finished watching season 4. Thank you
So
very
do
much.
we. And there's something I want to talk about, particularly with the abattoirs and what's happening to farming.
Oh, yes.
We've talked about Israel and Iran. We're done there.
Yeah, let's not go back to that this episode. Unless we get breaking news that something's happened.
There's a nuclear bomb's gone off
Yes.
somewhere. I hope there hasn't. Please don't. That's not me tempting fate.
No.
Jacinta Allen has cracked down on youth crime content.
Oh, yes, because this could not possibly be abused and misused by the government in the way that the incitement laws were.
Don't jail the people holding the machetes.
No.
Be like naughty social media
It's the ones holding
content.
the camera that you really got to go after, you know?
I can't actually. And then I thought we'd be funny and share these leftists who have gone to Egypt to try and march to Gaza and are quickly finding out that the Egyptians are like, no.
Well, look, I appreciate your efforts to finish on a funny, but I pulled out a great funny a minute ago and you just didn't laugh at all.
The landmine. I don't know if that was funny.
Jokes about kids and landmines. How can that not be funny?
Yeah.
Funny every time.
Yeah, it just
wow.
Sorry, maybe I should have maintained eye contact when you said it.
I was trying to make this a light-hearted episode just with some great little jokes about genocide and people blowing up.
Yeah, well, I mean, at this point, the truth is stranger than fiction. Yeah. So that was actually believable.
It was plausible. I was too authentic. I didn't give you that little vocal cue that I'm being funny
a
here.
wink.
Yeah, okay. All right. Next time.
So which of those topics would you
Let's
love?
just go through them in order.
No. I need to give us a palate cleanse.
Okay.
Actually, stop it.
Okay, stop.
We have some good news.
Do we?
We have. Well, I think it's
This
good
is news to me.
I'm going to share our first merch drop.
Oh yes, this looks fantastic.
I've got to pull it up on screen.
So fun.
So we've talked about merch drop. We've talked about what we can have. Tangent times, obviously.
Tangent time.
I think you need to end on like a ooh, and then you'll get like a choir behind you and that tangent time.
Yeah.
You know, like a bit of a harmony.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we've run with tangent time and in the theme of all things old, and this is it. This is our first merch drop.
That is old. That is 90s. Screaming at me, the DeLorean's a nice touch. Tangent time, travel time. Yeah, okay. I like it.
Do people know this is a DeLorean? I hope so.
I would. My first thought is, are you going to get into like IP trouble? But I guess it's kind of not exact.
It's also 40 years old.
You've hand drawn this, haven't you?
Yeah.
Okay, so you own, because that's not a precise DeLorean. So that's your artist's impression of a
Look
DeLorean.
Look at the lines on this shit.
Oh,
look at the
beautiful. Beautiful.
But yes, and then our tagline is where we're going. We don't need plans.
Well, we laugh about copyright, but the Voyager, the car, the Voyager, the Chrysler Voyager.
Yep. They
did a big billboard campaign that they got sued for. The tagline was "Boldly Go."
Boldly Go.
Which was a rip-off of Boldly Going Where No One Has Gone Before, which was a Star Trek tagline for the USS Voyager, I think it was. And they got sued and they lost.
Wow, okay.
Yep. So unfortunately, if we get big enough to be worth suing, at this point in time they can have my dog. But
well, no, because I think there's no IP in here. We haven't used the Back to the Future font.
Yeah.
It's 10%, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a DeLorean.
Yeah. Okay. It is. It's an homage.
It's an homage.
I love it. I think it's a fantastic.
So we've got.
Oh, that looks great.
We've got hoodies.
Okay. Now we do need to get rid of that background thing because now it's stuffing up all your beautiful design.
Oh, I don't know how to do it.
There's my hand in the Oddcast shirt.
Sorry, guys.
No, that's all right. Doesn't matter. That's for next episode.
And then we have T-shirts.
Yes. Tangent time.
And then we're also going to do.
I would wear the crap out of that. That is so good.
I think everyone would wear this.
I
think that's just like a nod to nostalgia.
Yeah.
And it's fun.
And people are going to be like, what?
And it's colourful, guys, because we need a little more colour in our lives.
Colour in our lives. Absolutely.
We do. And then there's going to be another one, which I got this from one of our super chats.
Right.
And it was, this is just a simulation, right? So it's going to be an Oddcast shirt and that'll be on the back.
I like the Oddcast down the bottom.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I'm just trying to play around a little bit.
Yeah.
So let us know what you think, guys. We need you to support us.
Yep.
So I've tried to make merch that you'll be frothing over.
Yeah. I'm frothing.
I'm frothing.
Yeah.
I was going to do a third one. I was like, no, we'll just do two.
Just do two?
Just
All
give
right.
people,
yeah.
and you will buy two. And you will buy two of each. No.
Okay, so the third one you need to work on in due course is a spicy Carlz. We need a spicy Carlz
Do
one.
we? Or do I just go to just find a plushie?
Well, look, we can go straight to plushies.
Yeah.
Like
I really want a plushie.
Okay, sorry, dark humour, a dog chew toy.
Yeah.
A dog chew toy in the shape of spicy Carlz for my sense of humour. Like, you know those the Kongs that you can put peanut butter onto the inside of? Like a Kong for that's
It could be that hard. Surely I could find someone that could make us a run of 50. I just want a plushie. I just think it'd be funny. I don't know if you want Carlz on a t-shirt. Do you want spicy Carlz?
I don't know. Well, I mean, that avatar that you made, the jalapeno, the California Reaper pepper.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh, well, you guys let me know.
This is awesome. I
But
like where this is going.
So we'll get these up on the website.
To everyone listening, I will now give you a 45-minute detailed description of precisely what no, I'm not.
Oh yeah, there's people listening.
There's people listening. They can't see a thing.
Forget about you guys.
there's thousands of them. How can you forget?
I know. I'm sorry, guys. I do. Yeah. Okay. So it's basically Back to the Future theme. Think Miami Vice. Think sunset colors. That real 80s look.
Miami Vice. I get California Games.
Yeah, that was the whole thing. Because we talk about, we've talked about G's nostalgia and his love of video games at the moment. Back to the Future.
Where we're going, we don't need plans. I absolutely love that.
I think it's funny.
That's so good.
If you were to sum us up,
it is us.
That's us.
That is absolutely us.
That's us. So
I love it.
There you go. That's a palate cleanse.
Yep.
Back to dark stuff.
All right, let's get back down to the grime.
So I need to get that thing closer to me, so I'm not doing this on screen. But whatever. There we go. Does it work? Hello?
And a 1, 2. Yep.
Yeah, there we go. So what topic do you want?
Look, let's go OnlyFans. You've prefaced it already. We've teased it enough times.
All right. So the news is our favourite friend of the show,
Bonnie Blue. We would not have a show without her. We spent half our time talking about her.
To be thankfully, Abby Chatfield and Bonnie Blue exist because what else would we talk about?
Well, that's right. That's right.
They give us content.
Yeah.
So Bonnie Blue has been banned from OnlyFans.
What for?
So this is actually really sinister stuff. So Bonnie Blue was planning on hosting a petting zoo event.
Like with goats and ducks and
no.
like it's really cute.
Well, arguably
I'd bring my
animals
kids to that. Should I not bring my kids to her petting zoo?
I don't think so.
Oh, this is a different kind of
This
petting
is getting
zoo.
weird. I'm trying to make a joke, but I can't. It's gross. So G was like, oh, be careful talking about this because it's really disturbing. I was like, oh, we'll try and make it funny. So her petting zoo, she was going to be tied up, gagged, with in a glass box for 24 hours, allowing up to 2,000 people to interact with her without limits. No breaks, doing whatever they want.
There's immediately some questions. In a 24-hour period, any normal, healthy human being is going to have a bowel movement and some other things like, I assume that's just part of it then? That just goes on inside the glass box?
Anything she wants.
Well, anything that the 2,000 men want, apparently, from what you just read. That's disturbing. We also cross into some really weird territory. I mean, let's just go full weird here. If somebody gives you that permission and then someone takes that as permission to murder them.
Yes.
Is that murder or is that actually consensual?
This is why I want to talk about it
adults?
Because a lot of people have brought up this performance and I'm just Googling it so I can bring it up on screen. So Marina Abramovic, she's an artist and she did this thing in the 70s.
Right.
And I'm just pulling it up so we can see it. I'm pretty sure it's called Rhythm O.
I know the name. I don't know why.
Yes, here it is. So I'll bring it up.
Abramovich is the Russian billionaire who owned a British, different Abramovich. Yeah.
Okay. So this is her. I might put it on the bigger screen actually now that I'm here. So she is a performance artist and she had a 6-hour performance where she was standing there and she allowed people to come into the room and there were 72 objects on the table that they can be used in any way you want.
Because that couldn't possibly go wrong.
So there was things in there like, a whip, like some sexually things, some pleasurable things, and then there was a loaded gun. So it says up here, sorry, I'm reading the Wikipedia, let's get it right. There were objects that represent both pleasure and pain. Some items included a rose, a feather, perfume, honey, bread, grapes, wine, scissors, a scalpel, nails, a metal bar, a gun, and a bullet. There were no separate stages. She stood there and watched as it happened. Now, a lot of men who came had their wives with them, and they did all sorts of things. I'm going to read this. It began tamely. Someone turned her around. Someone thrust her arms up in the air. Someone touched her somewhat intimately. Then the night began to heat up. In the third hour, all of her clothes were cut from her body with razor-sharp blades. In the fourth hour, the same blades began to explore her skin. Her throat was slashed so that someone could suck her blood. Oh. Various minor sexual assaults were carried out on her body. She was so committed to the peace that she would not have resisted rape or murder. Faced with her abdication of will, with its implied collapse of human psychology, a protective group began to defy itself in the audience. When a loaded gun was thrust to Marina's head and her own figure was being worked around the trigger, a fight broke out between the audience factions.
Wow.
So this happened in the 70s, right?
I mean, you said it was going to get dark, but that's...
Yeah.
Like that's some... yeah.
It's dark,
and that's not a TV show about this. No, this actually happened.
This is a real performance. You guys can Google it. And, her whole thing was like, how far will people go? Wow. If you give that permission, will people's natural curiosity like just descend into obscenity? And yeah, the trigger working around the finger working around the trigger.
What you've done there is invited whoever is the lowest common denominator to take everyone with them down to their level.
When we talk about this petting zoo, I can't show you much of anything about Bonnie because it's just so we
would get banned.
It's so disturbing. So I'm going to try and be serious for a second. I want to call it curiosity. I was curious just how depraved this woman was.
Yeah.
I've seen photos of her. I know what she looks like. And I was like, I'm going to go to her X because, on X you can post whatever you want.
Anything, yeah.
Was I horrified? No, I wasn't horrified. I was really sad because for lack of a better description, it's basically just gang rape scenes.
Yeah.
She's got multiple men around her at any time and they are just debasing her. That's the only word I can use. It's just debasement. And she's 25, allegedly 25. And you see this young, pretty girl, she's arguably pretty, being thrown around and used as like this sex toy, and she wants it. She willingly says, I want you to be treated this way. I find it empowering. Yeah. And the reason I bring up Bonnie Blue, not to just disturb you all, and I don't want to keep talking about it, is because then shit like this happens. So I'm just going to cut over to the screen. This just happened in Western Sydney. This is a gang rape that was carried out by teenagers.
Oh.
17-year-old girl was ambushed at a shopping centre in Western Sydney, then forced to drive to another location by the offender where she was gang raped by migrant men for 6 hours. This is sick. The 4 teenagers have been charged over a pack sex attack. This is what Bonnie's doing. She's normalizing gang rape. I'm sorry, but that's what it is. This is nothing about feminism and empowerment. Bonnie is a sex predator. Bonnie is a disturbed individual. And the more publicity she gets, and arguably we are doing this here, she is encouraging gang rape behaviour. We've already seen it in Britain. The gang rapes exist.
I was going to bring up Tommy Robinson. It was exactly the presence of these kinds of things and the official efforts to cover them up.
Yes.
That brought out Tommy Robinson. And sure, he's been in and out of prison, all the rest of it, but he's a huge cultural figure with a huge cultural following. Mm-hmm. You think this isn't going to be used by the fascist Proud Boy, whatever they call themselves?
The Nazis.
It's not going to get used by them as part of a recruitment drive?
Yeah,
of course it is. We are unfortunately, and if the justice system does anything other than come down like a ton of bricks on those perpetrators, I talk about, we can't judge, I'm pro-immigration, I'm on the record over and over again. We've got to take people as individuals, we can't judge a group, etc. But once we have the individuals, especially individuals guilty of something like that, you got to fuck them up. Like that's you at that point you have to go, you've crossed over from being innocent until proven guilty. Once we've proven you guilty, you're fucked.
Yeah. This is going to boil your blood. Here we go. You know who that is?
That looks like Andrew Tate on the right.
Oops, sorry.
I assume that's Bonnie Blue crouching down.
That's Bonnie Blue.
So is that an AI picture she's made?
No,
Some
that's
fantasy
real.
of hers, or
No, that's real. That's how she behaves. So Andrew Tate, who's Muslim, by the way, and calls all this stuff haram, even though that's how he made all his money, has said that he will get Bonnie onto his podcast. And I think the guy next to him is a very conservative influencer or something. This is it. This is where we're at. This is cultural decay right here. I know a lot of people who are watching this are a bit older and whatnot, particularly Topher's audience. This is what your kid's looking at, mate. You might want to turn a blind eye. You might be like, I don't want to see this shit. This is what your kid's looking at. This is all they talk about. This is why it matters.
Can I shock you?
Oh, go for it. Will it shock me though? I've looked at Bonnie Blue's ex today. I don't know if
this isn't as new as we are tempted to believe that it is.
No, this has been going on for a while. It's just now in the cultural zeitgeist.
You go back to the story of Lot in the Bible. Mm-hmm. Now, he was a very wealthy man who lived in a very, very wicked city. And he wanted to keep living there because that's where he made all of his money. But he himself was trying to do the right thing. He was trying to live righteously in a culture that had gone like this. And the whole city had gone like this. To give you some idea, the account is that two strangers came and visited him, and they were particularly handsome. They were allegedly angels that had come to visit him. And while he was entertaining them in his home, i.e. having dinner and being a good host, the city elders gathered outside of his gates and started beating down his door, demanding that he give them the two strangers so that they could have gay sex with him.
Right.
He says, in fear of his life, pushes his daughters out of the gate and says, have them instead. Right? And that was not only considered acceptable within that culture, that was being done by the people who were leading that city. Mm-hmm. That was the way it was done. Mm-hmm. And there's obviously a lot of layers to that, the treatment of women, the debasement of women, etc. But also, how do you have a culture that says, hey, unless you send out your guests for us to anally rape, we're going to burn your house down, we're going to kill you.
Yeah.
Right? And that was what the city was like. So unfortunately, what we're seeing here in these pictures, Bonnie Blue, all of that is actually a reflection of a dark side of human nature that has always been there for thousands of years.
This is what, so I heard a really good argument yesterday, and I can't for the life of me remember where I saw this, but what they said is sadists have always existed, right? And so have masochists.
Yeah.
I think Bonnie is a masochist. I think she somehow something's happened in her brain where she sees this, and then I think a lot of it is the notoriety. She wants to be the worst to have ever done it, or the best to have ever done it, however you want to look at that. I think obviously she gets off on this in some weird way because she's damaged in some capacity. But what this person said was that this is allowing people who entertain sadistic thoughts to act out their fantasies. So, for example, if you're someone that may have had some thoughts that, you know, typically we would say are off limits.
Yeah.
And then there's someone like Bonnie offering you an opportunity to just sort of maybe act on them a little bit.
Yeah.
You think that's going to satiate them?
Yeah, no, of course not.
That's just going to peel it back. And you know, this gets really sinister. You've seen somewhat of a weird normalization of pedophilia, the way we talk about maps and, you know, like it's a sexual preference and, you know, these people can't help it. And you've got people like we spoke about Lily Tino last week. And, you know, I saw comments, you know, oh, I can't watch your podcast if you're going to talk about these people. Why? These people exist. These people are being talked about all day on TikTok.
Yeah.
And just because you're not on TikTok doesn't mean the next generation's not on there. And you guys forget, like, you're okay, you live in your echo chamber, I get that. But a huge part of the voter base now is Gen Z.
And a lot of this stuff is, regrettably, even this kind of stuff is being found by kids and by people who are underage.
That's my point.
It's your kids, it's your grandkids, it's your nieces, your nephews. These are the people that are actually being
Have we talked about how Bonnie Blue keeps talking about barely illegals?
I don't think we've talked. I'm aware that she does. When you said that she'd been taken off OnlyFans, I assumed that's what it was for, not for this other stuff.
She's a predator. She put up a video saying that I want to sleep with someone who's like 2 minutes, like 30 seconds after midnight turned 18.
Yeah, wow.
You know, I want to take your V card and all this kind of crap. And then I saw something. This is what I saw, and like this is what made me basically just feel. I don't know how to feel about it. Like it was disgusting, but I just sound like a prude if I'm saying that. But it was this I feel really gross saying this. I don't know how else to use the words, but it was a gang rape scene. Porn scene, right? And Bonnie was there with like, I don't know, 10 more maybe men. And she had a barely legal young girl who they call themselves bops. So someone that does OnlyFans, right? This girl was barely 18 and she was Bonnie's assistant for the day.
Right.
And whilst Bonnie is in this
Doing
explicit scene, this girl's like laughing and holding her hair and like pouring a bottle of water for her and stuff like that. And I'm like, this barely legal 18-year-old probably isn't even aware of what she's really doing.
Yeah.
And she's not just like entertaining a little bit of porn. She's in like the worst of it. I just think it's predatory. And, you know, it really bothers me. I'm not a feminist. We know this. I've been accused of being a covert one, apparently. This really upsets me, man. I think about, you know, you've got daughters. I think about young generation who have been co-opted by thinking that this is a really good way to make money because Louis Vuitton bags are more important. And, you know, Bonnie now does all this. I got to get her off the screen. I can't even look at her.
Yeah, take her off the screen. Let's wrap this segment up.
You know, she does everything that she does, and then she walks around with a Van Cleef necklace.
Yeah.
You know, she drives around in a Ferrari and she's going in and buying, you know, tens of thousands of dollars worth of designer clothes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like, these young girls think that's aspirational and they go, oh, it's not that bad. She looks like she's having fun.
Yep.
Oh, I don't know how to come back from this one.
Yeah. You feel better now? You got that off your chest?
No.
Neither do we.
I had one more thing. It wasn't Bonnie, but it was Sabrina Carpenter. Do you know who she is?
Oh, again, vaguely. These aren't people in my orbit. But
no, this is just to round out like what I'm talking about with what's going on with young women.
Oh, that's that album cover thing that everyone's outraged about. Yeah. I've come across it.
So this is, and again, Sabrina's got a really young audience.
Yeah.
She wears like, you know, she looks a bit Taylor Swift-esque. Pardon me. She wears like the glittery leotards and she's all very cutesy, very sort of like, you know, what do you call it? Pin-up doll.
Right.
And she's a little pocket rocket and she makes all these like sweet songs, whatever. But, you know, this is it now. This is where we're at.
But Taylor Swift went through the same journey. Miley Cyrus went through the same journey.
I don't think
sexualization.
I don't think Taylor Swift ever went full sex herself up.
Oh, I would argue what she wears on stage, etc., is
the
a part
leotards.
of that. Yeah, is a part of that culture.
So that's Sabrina normally.
Yeah.
You know, like a Marilyn Monroe kind of.
Yeah, sort of classy and elegant and whatever.
What I find really interesting about this is the feminists are coming out now.
Yeah.
The feminists are like, you've gone too far.
Yeah.
Stop. And I'm like, that's too far.
Yeah.
That's where you're drawing the line. What?
So this element of it is interesting to me. Because what they're objecting to, this is why I came across it, was because feminists are saying, oh, this is too much, blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine, let's have a look. What's the latest thing they're outraged about? What they're outraged about is that in their opinion, she's expressing desire and submission. Mm-hmm. That is forbidden. So this idea, this feminist idea that women can be whatever they want to be, you can be whatever you want to be unless what you are is someone who desires an intimate relationship with a man and is submissive in what you desire.
Okay.
Right? You can want anything you want as long as it's dominance, as long as it's the feminist ideal of the power woman, the boss lady, the blah, blah, blah. You're not allowed to want that. That's off limits, even for feminists. And so I find this interesting, that the feminist movement, we've talked about this before, first wave feminism was all about we want to have the same basic human and legal rights as men. Mm-hmm. Second wave feminism, all about having the same doors open as men, no artificial glass ceilings. Third wave feminism, they realised even without artificial glass ceilings, not that there's none of those left, but a lot of them have been removed, but even without them, women couldn't actually keep up in a lot of domains, sport being an obvious one. And so now third wave feminism became holding men back, right? We have to reduce them down to our level. And that's an entirely different thing. Now, instead of trying to lift women up, we're trying to tear men down. And so any woman who expresses a desire for men, any woman who puts a man on a pedestal, even if that is her nature, even if that is what she wants and she enjoys, and that's that's actually the life and the relationship that she wants, you're off limits now. You're a traitor to the feminist cause, because our cause now is not about lifting women up and hey, you can have whatever you want, you can be whatever you want. It's about tearing men down.
God, it's interesting you say that. And this gives me a really good segue into our next topic.
Okay.
I'm so sorry, guys. It's been a dark one. Like, don't blame me. Blame the news cycle.
Look, we started with the potential for a nuclear apocalypse, and it got darker from there.
Well, we talked about supermarket stuff, and we talked. Oh God, no! We've given them AI. We've got to pep them up a bit.
Listen. What we've got is an arms race for which one can end the world. Oh, what was that movie? Everything All at Once.
Oh,
there was a movie where they had like all of the meteorites and the volcanoes and the zombies and the pandemic all at once. Haven't seen it.
No,
probably a terrible movie. But that's what we're doing. We're doing season 2 of Everything All at Once.
Part of me wants to go and watch things like Sharknado now.
Oh yeah.
I'm just like, you know what? At this point, that's almost believable.
It seems believable. Yeah, I could
get around it now. Yeah. Now I'm all like, oh, okay. Yeah. Actually, small segue. Small tangent. We watched. God, what's it called? I always get the title. The Day After Tomorrow.
Oh yes.
No. Yeah, The Day After Tomorrow. Yeah, that's Jake Gyllenhaal.
That's the one with the Statue of Liberty's head coming out of the sand or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yes.
Or out of the snow.
Ice.
Out of the
snow.
ice. Yeah.
Yes. No, there's one called Tomorrow When the War Begun, which is a great
that's
book.
a different thing. Yeah.
And I always get them confused. Sorry. Jake Gyllenhaal. It's an apocalypse movie, basically the polar ice caps, and I think it came out 2012 or around there, because there was another one called 2012 with John Cusack.
Okay.
You know how they used to
do... And that was the Mayan calendar one?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know how they used to do like 2 movies at the same time to sort of compete with each other?
Yeah.
They had like Dante's Peak and then Volcano at the same time. Anyway, what happened to disaster movies?
Oh, gosh.
We don't need them anymore.
Now, mind you, there was...
We live in the disaster.
I haven't seen Twisted 2, but apparently...
It's great.
Apparently it is a really good movie.
It's really good. I loved it.
And non-political, just great disaster.
Brilliant.
Storyline, decent characters from what I'm told. And
it wasn't like too crazy with the CGI either. It was believable.
Yeah.
I loved the first Twister.
From zombie apocalypse to movie remakes.
Yeah. Anyway, so this movie, I was watching it and I hadn't seen it in years. And it's so interesting watching movies like that in hindsight, because all the woke stuff was there, except it was just, I didn't pick it up at the time. I didn't know about it at the time. And you watch it now, you're like, oh my God, this movie's so woke.
Yeah, and it's shoving it down your throat. And it does, unfortunately, it ruins a lot of entertainment. I remember watching V for Vendetta. Some friends, I went to the cinemas with two friends, and we were going to watch something else, and then at the last minute they both wanted to watch V for Vendetta because they were big fans of the comics. I'd never read the comics, had no idea what it was. I went, okay, well, I'm outvoted. We walked in. They came out raving. What an amazing movie, blah, blah, blah. And I came out and went, okay, decent movie. But did you not just see the 1.5 hour long sermon that just got shoved down our throats? And they're like, no idea what you're talking about. And then I just left them to rave and enjoy their movie.
It's loosely based on like a 1984 thing, right?
More of a, is it Brave New World? He
was a real guy, wasn't he?
So
it's based on a relatively true story. No,
they hark back to Guy Fawkes, who was a real guy, but that's an entirely I mean, in the loosest possible sense, it's based on Guy Fawkes. Remember the something
of November.
Remember
the 5th of November.
Something like that.
Do you know how I know about Guy Fawkes being a real guy?
How's
when
that?
You and I went to ARC.
Oh yes.
Our apartment when we were staying there was overlooking. Is it the river?
Yeah,
near the O2?
Thames.
The Thames.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, like just bloody fireworks were everywhere, and it was so loud. I thought it was like gunshots, and I was like, oh, "What's going on?" And I went out, and it was like all these firecrackers, and it was Guy Fawkes Day.
There you go. But yes, so Twister, good movie. Day After Tomorrow, lots of propaganda, but also a decent movie as disaster movies go. But there was a point to all of that somewhere in there.
Was there?
I don't know.
I don't know if there was.
I mean, you tangented. You did announce your tangent. You said we were going to segue
because you talked about a movie, then I gave you a movie, and then we just
we'll just come back.
Yeah,
we'll just go. Okay, sorry guys, dead end.
Who says we don't like cheer you up every now and then?
That's right. That's right.
I was just trying to lighten the mood.
We do some movie criticism from time to time.
Maybe that's what our new thing. Well, there's nothing to critique because all the movies are shit.
Yeah, it's true.
There hasn't been a good movie in ages. Yeah. Anyway, no, I did say that to you before the podcast. I watched. Was it Clear and Present Danger?
Yes, the Tom Clancy.
Where the nuke gets blown up in Baltimore.
Yes.
Yeah.
The book is fantastic, by the way. No, hang on. I'm thinking of The Sum of All Fears.
Or maybe it was that because it was one of those.
So in The
We've
Sum of
watched
All
both.
Fears, he spends an entire chapter on like 1 femtosecond or some like infinitesimally small amount of time describing what happens in the billionth of a second after a nuclear bomb goes off and how...
Is that Sum of All Fears?
That's Sum of All Fears, yeah.
That must be what we
and
watched
they bring a backpack nuke into a stadium.
That's the movie we watched.
And then only the first of the 2 nuclear stages goes off. The second stage doesn't, but it kills a lot of people and blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
The Sum of All Fears, I'm pretty sure, because that was where in the opening I believe it was something to do with Israel, a plane carrying a nuclear weapon gets shot down, they jettison the nuclear weapon, it never gets found, and then someone uncovers it and it falls into terrorist hands and they then convert that bomb or they repair that bomb and carry that. And this is the book. I haven't seen the movie.
Morgan Freeman in it.
I haven't seen the movie,
Yeah,
but
and Ben
that's
Affleck.
the book. Yeah.
Ben Affleck's very young. Anyway, back to what we were talking about. I had a segue. I can't even remember how we segued here, but well, whatever. We'll start fresh.
Sure.
So we were talking about, we're going to talk about the King of Trolls has been, what do you call it? Like had the mask reveal. Sorry, I'm trying. We've talked about a lot.
This is your Tattle life?
Tattle life.
All right, talk to me. What's going on?
Okay, so I'll bring up the screen. I have resisted talking about Tattle life because you're familiar with the Streisand effect.
Yes, and you know, I wouldn't know that Tattle life existed if they weren't coming after you and you told me about them.
Yeah, so Tattle life, I've known about it for a long time. There's a thread about me, and I'm sure you're all going to go and Google it now. But it's one of those things that's insidious. It's where people who hate me, and this all started thanks to Clem Ford. This is how my villain origin story starts.
Right.
So these people have a forum that is somewhat anonymous.
Sure.
And they're able to basically just discuss you.
Yep.
And it's a little bit like that performance thing I just showed you. It goes beyond like, oh, she said this, she's an idiot, to, oh, I know where she lives, she does this. Let's call Child Protective Services on her. Let's send this parcel to her boyfriend's work. Let's call up all their clients.
Yeah.
And so these people, through their anonymous accounts, think they can get away with blue murder.
Yeah.
And this has been an ongoing problem it's mostly women. Of course, there are some men that get targeted as well, but typically it's women.
Yeah.
And so what they do is they watch your social media. They screenshot everything. It doesn't matter. It could be a picture of your dog. It doesn't matter what you post.
Yeah.
And they will pull it apart. They'll be like, there's
they're
dog hair on the
obsessed.
carpet.
Yeah.
She's disgusting. She lives in a dirty, filthy house. Or, she's put on weight. Gee, she's looking really fat. She's probably pregnant. Or, like her boyfriend's going to dump her because she's putting the relation, like just stupid shit, right?
Yeah.
And there's pages and pages and pages, and they're just incessant. And look, relatively speaking, I have gotten off quite light. From what I've actually never looked at my own.
Yeah. Okay.
And I won't.
Yeah.
I do not want to put that in my brain.
Yeah, you don't need it.
But from what I've been told, compared to other people's threads, I'm in a quiet thread.
Yeah,
so
okay.
I'm not that popular. So.
Oh, what a shame, Carly.
Thank God.
We'll have to work on that.
That might change now because I've just blown the lid on it. But this thing has caused a lot of problem for a lot of people. Like I said, there's influencers or people with public profiles, think your Beck Judds, Nadi Bartels, and whoever else in between. If they've got young kids, these women, out of their rage and just your garden variety jealousy, will ring up Child Protective Services and try to get their kids taken off
false
them.
reports and stuff,
Like this shit's crazy.
Yeah.
This is not normal.
This is psychotic.
You can disagree with someone, man. That's and you and I believe in free speech.
Yep.
But you are being destructive. You are actually antagonizing people. You are inflicting harm.
Yep.
This is defamation.
Yep.
And so I'll give you guys an example for me because I'm not going to speak to other people's experiences. But I had a big client, a winery, and it was a really big job. And I was so excited to start it because lockdown, in and out, in and out, in and out. And I'm always really careful to not put stuff on social media before it happens. And it finally happened. I was really excited and it was great. And every week, these people would ring up this winery and harass them. Carly's this, Carly's that. They called the cops. You name it. These people went out of their way to try and get me to lose that contract. And thankfully, the people there were amazing. Yeah. And they collated it all and they said, look, Carly, we're not going to we're not going to drop you, but it's annoying. Yeah. And all I could think of is okay, they're trying to get to me, but in trying to get to me, you're trying to make someone else's life utterly miserable. Yeah. Think of the staff that took those calls. Think of the people whose time was wasted doing all this. But they don't think about that because they're trying to get to me.
But also, if you are making a false report that carries that carries the potential for a punishment, i.e. your kids get taken off you or you get prosecuted for something you didn't do or these sorts of things, you should absolutely experience and have put on you whatever the harshest penalty was for the thing you tried to do to the other person. Like, and that is just a principle of law. That's not about vengeance. That's not me making an exception to freedom of speech. No. You make a false report with the intent of bringing unjustified harm upon another person. You may as well have swung an axe at them. You have tried to hurt their person, and you can now be punished properly in response.
Well, that's exactly what happened to me in COVID. They tried to ruin my life. We've talked about it 100 times. I don't want to bring it up again. But so this website has been the source of also tabloid fodder. This is where Daily Mail gets most of their pieces from. They go to Tattle Life.
Yeah, right.
So their journalists are trolling Tattle Life to see what's something that they could turn into a story. And then obviously Daily Mail. Like, look at all the this is the Daily Mail website. Look at all the advertising. You're not telling me they're making money off people suffering?
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
So the story is the guy behind Tattle Life, this is him. This is the man who started it.
Yeah. And
it's all obviously been anonymous up until now, but he's been named in court because there was this couple here, who were able to successfully sue Tattle Life for £300, and he has
for £300 or 300,000?
£300,000, sorry, £300,000. But they have also frozen his assets because they've gone the legal fees too.
Yeah.
So I think he is up for £1.5 million of damages.
Yeah.
So what do you think of this man, just having a look at him?
Well, I mean, if he were to become hit the headlines as, let's say, a shooter or political violence or things like that, a lot of assumptions would be made about him being a right-wing incel, white male nut job.
He's a vegan influencer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I mean, like I said, a nut job, yep.
Yeah, vegan influencer. And he runs this account, and the website, a bit like what you're seeing now, you can't really see it, but with the Daily Mail, the website has heaps of advertising on it.
Yeah.
So he's
making
really big money from it.
Yeah.
And so this couple were able to successfully sue, and what it's done is the judge in there was it's the quote in here. The judge basically said there needs to be a day of reckoning for the owner and all of those who participated. And so what that has done has turned the UK influencer sphere into absolute, like, we're going for gold now. This is it. This is our moment. We're going after him.
Yeah, right.
And then, of course, that filters across to Australia. And I am in a group of women.
Right.
And where we have been quietly collating, archiving, just keeping tabs on everything. And now we've all pooled our resources.
Yeah.
And we're going to go after these women. We're going to figure it out. And actually, the good news is I already know who quite a few of them are.
Excellent.
Because they're idiots.
Yeah.
The problem is they think it's anonymous, and they have the one email account to log into this that also is the email they use to sign up for things and then troll me and troll my clients.
Yeah.
And, your ISP is a real thing. You got a digital footprint. Once you just pull that thread a little bit, it becomes really easy. And so there's a document and that everyone is pulling all their data into.
Yeah.
And a lot of these accounts, we already know who they are.
Yeah.
And the worst thing is, like let's say in my account, there's like 5 people who are the most notorious. Those same 5 people are in like 30 other threads.
That's right. It's a very small number of people, but because it's the internet now, they can
They're
reach
prolific.
you. Okay, so can I play devil's advocate
Please.
and be the bad guy? And I know this is something very close to your heart. I don't mean to be incendiary, but let me just ask a couple of probing questions here. I have some concerns about holding a platform accountable for what people on the platform have done. So in the US, they have, I can't remember, it's a particular section, it's a particular law related to communications law that explicitly says that a platform is not liable in the US.
It's the carriage laws or something.
For the content that someone posts. So if someone posts something defamatory, you can't sue the platform for having hosted defamatory information. You have to go and find and sue the person who actually posted that thing. And in my opinion, that is the correct approach. And I think it is dangerous to turn every single chat room, every single publisher, every single web page into a publisher that is liable for what gets posted.
I would agree with you, except the issue is here, like all things, there's a moderator. And Tattle Life, for obviously, like, there's legal jurisdiction here for a lot of things, right? So Tattle Life, I think, to say that
Where is it based, by the way?
UK. Well, this is the thing. Is
he in the UK?
He's British,
Right?
but where the company is listed is all a bit weird.
Okay, yeah.
It's offshore.
He's probably tried to shelter
Yeah,
it.
there's lots. Yeah, so that's all the stuff that's coming out, and I only know like based on what has been disclosed, but.
Yeah.
Essentially what it is like they say they have moderators. So if anything crosses the line legally, they remove it, but they don't.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example.
Well, that's your mistake right there.
Correct.
Don't have moderators.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. Because Reddit, for example, has mods.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of mods. And, you get banned, you get removed. But with Tattle Life, I know of a girl that I'm quite friendly with whose location was posted. And then it resulted in these people doing drive-bys and knocking on the door and talking to the neighbours.
Yeah.
And basically it got so bad that she had to leave the place because the body corporate was like, you have to go.
Yeah,
we
it's
can't
proper
do this.
psycho behaviour, isn't it?
Yeah. And so he has enabled that.
Yeah.
And he's aware that's happening.
Yeah.
And he's making money off that happening. So that's the grey area. Otherwise, I agree with you. And the other thing is too, if you don't give people a forum, they're going to find another way to do it. I believe in free speech, but I don't believe that these people should be able to do what they're doing without consequence.
Yeah. So incitement is a real thing. It was misused against me and against Monica and against others during COVID, but it is a real thing. And it doesn't have to be as explicit as, hey, this is her address, go and give her a hard time. It can just be in the context of a forum that is hating on people like that, just posting someone's address.
Yeah.
That is an act of incitement because there is just the very context into which you are posting that.
Well, you're trying to make someone feel unsafe.
And you are hoping that people are then going to act on that information.
Yeah.
So there is already a prosecutable offence in there. I would advocate for the platform to be forced to be subpoenaed essentially by courts, to be forced to hand over any identifying information that they do have.
Yeah.
Logins, IP addresses, histories, all of that. Because what you said earlier is spot on. Anonymity on the internet doesn't actually exist.
No.
You can make it difficult for people to find you, and you can make it so difficult that it's not worth the resources they would have to invest. But no one is completely untraceable on the internet. The only way to be untraceable on the internet is to be off the internet. And so, any of these people can be tracked down relatively easily. There's tools that can do that. No, it's not. And it's, I don't do anything anonymous on the internet. Everything that I do on the internet is under my own name.
That's how I approach it. I'm like, you know what? I obviously have political opinions. We do this podcast. People hear what I'm saying. You see it. You see my face. You see my name. I do it as me. I'm not trying to do it behind closed doors and clandestinely to try and be like nefarious. This is what I
correct.
This is what I think.
Correct.
If you don't like it, that's okay.
And I will cheer you on as you try and hold the individuals who said those specific things accountable. I think that's fantastic. I'd need to know more about the precedent that's been set here under British law and the relationship of the platform, etc., to know how I feel about that. I am a free speech absolutist, even free speech that does do some harm.
Yeah.
I'm an absolutist on that. But yes, once someone gets to the point where they are actually inciting physical harm or harm to you or to your property, to your business, etc., well, at that point, that is harm.
I would agree with you. I am a free speech absolutist, but you can say whatever you want, but don't be shocked if you get punched in the face.
Yeah, that's correct.
The issue is
you don't
we
get
haven't been
immunity from
allowed
consequences.
we haven't been allowed to punch back.
Yeah.
And this was actually the thing we were talking about before we got completely sideways. And I don't even know what happened when we brought this up, but I was saying we're in the find out era.
Yes. Well, hopefully they're in the find out era.
This is the find out era. And so I'll give you an example. Like, these people are so stupid. One of them was prolific at trolling me during COVID. His name was Wesley Forster.
Right.
Vorster with a V. And I have no issue with shaming him because he did it from his face, so good on him for at least not being a coward. Yep. But then he made, because I blocked him, he then made countless accounts. Yeah. And he sent me hate mail, and it was obscene, the amount of emails. I'm like, dude, you're 42. Don't you have a job? Shouldn't you, how do you have this free time?
Yeah.
But anyway, Wesley made...
He probably wanted to be your boyfriend.
Yeah, it's a bit weird.
Yeah.
No, he was gay. So he had a husband. Anyway, whatever. Lived in Sydney, and the guy's such an idiot. He sent stuff through my website.
Yeah.
And all I had to do was ask the CMS provider for the ISP of all. So I just said, "Hey, I'm getting all this hate mail. Can you tell me what the ISPs are?"
Yeah.
It was all him.
Yeah.
And so I just was like, well, mate, you want to play this game, this is going to get really embarrassing. I think the trash took himself out. I don't know. I haven't heard from him for a while, but
they do after a while. So I get ones that'll do this thing where they'll start spamming with comments or photos or something onto all my social media. I'll block them, and then all of a sudden they pop up. Different name, new account, blah, blah, blah.
Same thing.
But it's the same sort of content. I've had this on some of my lives where someone will come in, and it's funny because people don't realize how much of a signature you have in how you write and the expressions you use. And good old Lance.
What happened to Lance?
I don't know. And so they would write these comments, and then they would log out of YouTube and log in as a different YouTube account and start writing comments. And I'm like, well, hang on, I'm looking at the linguistic similarities here. You've made a similar reference here, blah, blah, blah. And so I called them out one time on a live, and then it never happened again.
Yeah.
It hasn't happened since.
Yeah.
And so there's a very, very small number of people
Yeah.
that are trying to make them. It's a paper tiger. You're trying to make yourself seem ever so big, but actually it's just made out of paper mache.
Yeah.
It's not
and
real.
these people would crumble. And my whole thing, right? Like, we're going to go on to Abby Chatfield in a second because another friend of the show.
Why not?
Yeah. You've run out of water.
I've run out of vodka. It's all right. I brought my own.
Excellent.
Not vodka, but
It could be.
You
We
wouldn't know.
we might need to be fair.
Yeah.
If we hit World War III, maybe I'll start drinking alcohol.
I tell you what.
But my whole thing with this whole free speech thing, okay, look, you can disagree with me. That's fine. But there has to be consequences, and there wasn't, and there hasn't been for so long because, you're on the wrong side of the political fence, you were the wrong skin colour, whatever the reason was. And I think what we've seen now, and G and I were talking about this, you talk about it like it's a pressure cooker, and that pressure is building and building, and people aren't allowed to say anything. We can't talk about youth crime because, it might be a bit weird because the ethnicity is not the right one, blah, blah, blah. And now people are like, nah, fuck that.
Yeah.
And that's why we're in the find out
the gloves are coming off. People are sick and tired of dancing around these issues. They're actually they've got the confidence of knowing what they're looking at and saying, no, this is real. You tried to gaslight me. You tried to tell me that this is only in my imagination. And I doubted myself for a minute.
Yeah.
But now I know this is real.
Well, you've probably got a word for this, but I'm going to explain the concept and you can tell me if this has been discussed before. But G and I were talking about this last night. We're talking about these people. The whole crabs in a bucket theory.
Sure.
Right? So what we've had is the splitting of the...
Maybe explain that because I know what that is.
Okay.
Not everyone
So the
does.
crabs in the bucket theory is basically like the crabs will keep pulling each other down. So rather than try and link up to help each other all get out of the bucket...
Yeah.
When one tries to get out, they'll pull it back down.
Yeah.
So they all stay in the bucket together. Yeah. And that's kind of where most NPCs or, people are, right? So what we had the splitting of the political aisle, and everyone became ultra polarized during the pandemic. And then what's happened now, you've had it was us versus them, but now you've got the splitting of the factions. And we're calling it our bucket theory. This is me and G. So what you've had is two buckets, but now the people are like, well, hang on a minute, you don't fit in my bucket because you don't agree with me 100%. Yeah. We're not pulling the crab back in, we're kicking the crab out. And so now that crab has to scurry across and find another bucket. And he's like, okay, I'm now with the Palestinian people. Cool, we're all in this together. And now it's like, well, hang on a minute, I don't agree with that. Well, you can't be in this bucket then, out you go.
Yeah.
And so what they're doing is they're actually alienating people who are mostly aligned with them, but they're not 100% aligned. And so what's actually happening is people are shrinking their pool of people. And Clem Ford is a perfect example of this. Yep. She's a feminist. Great. Okay, so she had half the population. And then she's this. And then she's this. And the more antagonizing she has become, the crazier and more fringe she has become, her pool of support is shrinking. And what's going to happen is you become insignificant, mate. You've got no pool.
So I don't have a word for it, but I can...
He'll come up with one.
Yeah, that's right. I'll invent one. I'll just make it a really long multisyllabic word and you'll be like, oh, wow. But it's a really funny thing that happens.
It's our bucket theory.
People are more willing to put aside their differences when they psychologically view themselves as being in the resistance. Mm-hmm. They are more united by what they're opposed to than they are united by what they're for.
Yeah.
If you're in the minority, you're in the resistance. So the sexual revolution, was this countercultural revolution. The old fuddy-duddies, the conservatives, the people who believe in the nuclear family and crazy concepts like male and female, they've got all the positions of power and we're in the resistance. And so people who really only had one or two things in common would put aside all of their differences in order to unite. Mm-hmm. The trouble for them is they won. And actually what's happened, and I started talking about this pre-COVID, we've become the resistance. People like you and I, we don't hold the positions of power in politics. We don't hold it in media. We don't hold it in culture, in arts or sports. We don't hold it in business and wealth. All of the positions of power are now held by people who at the very least will pretend that they're on board with all the progressives and the sexual revolution and all of that whole social experiment. They have become the culture, and we are now the counterculture. The biggest thing that happens once you're the culture is you are no longer united by what you're opposed to. The enemy is not big enough anymore. Now you're interested in getting as much as you can out of the victory that you've won. That's where they break down. That's where the differences between them suddenly loom large, where they were insignificant whilst they were united fighting a common enemy. Now that common enemy has been defeated, those differences become everything. And that factionalizing happens. Now this is universal. This isn't just the left. This is universal. This is what happens when a counterculture unites to then take on a culture and they win. This fracturing is inevitable and almost immediate.
Well, it's interesting. We what started our conversation about this last night is you and I have a troll at the moment.
Oh.
And give him a shout out. But he won't go to the effort to watching the entire podcast.
Oh,
he's watching your segment.
So he's a half-assed troll.
And then demanding us to speak about a video that he's very passionate about.
Oh, yeah.
Now he wants us to talk about the Zionist influence in Australia.
Oh,
but
yeah.
then
He posts on my stuff all the time.
He does. But the interesting thing is, Topher, he actually knows more about it than you and I because we're dumb.
Yeah.
Because he tells us that in the comments. And then I keep saying to him, I'm like, mate, if
Start your
you're
own podcast.
so knowledgeable, please feel free to make a video. We'll watch it. But he's like, day 3 of asking to make a video. And I'm like, day 3 of you avoiding doing any actual work yourself,
that's right.
bro.
People are like, oh, but you've got an audience. Yes, there is a reason why people listen to me and not to you. Funny that.
It's funny that.
Yeah, weird, right?
I just love it because he's like, oh, you're deliberately avoiding it. I'm like, you're deliberately avoiding the work, bro. You got time to write the comment.
That's right.
No time to make your own video.
Go ahead and do it.
But and then because I wrote something, I can't even remember what I wrote, and he clapped back and he said something like, "Oh, do you even know who these people are?" I'm like, "No, because you haven't made a video about it. So how am I gonna learn, bro? You clearly want to school me. Let's go."
Love it. Spicy Carlz. Spicy Carlz is best Carlz.
Spicy Carlz. You know what? I won't play it. If you guys want, go follow me on Instagram at CarlzJSoda. I put up a story last night and I'm quite facetious at times and I always try and take the mickey.
Yeah.
I try and do things with humor. And last night I was like, guys, I don't know how to be as real as I can with you guys, but just look me in the eye. Like, this is me. This is Carlz.
Yeah.
There's no character here.
Yeah.
I was like, and I got this line from you and I love this line. I'm like, if you want to cast me as the villain, do not be surprised if it turns out I'm really fucking good at it.
Yep.
That's where I'm at.
Yep.
Nice Carlz is dead. You want to find her? She's in the morgue.
Yeah.
That's not my line. I got that from someone. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
Nice Carlz, I don't owe you nice.
Yeah.
You will get kind. You will get empathetic. You will get considerate. But nice? Nah, fuck off.
Yeah.
We're done.
Yeah.
And that's what I was saying, like in regards to the trolls and everything, in business. I think that's where we all had to get to. You said last week, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
I'm just like, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not nice. You're right.
Correct.
If you wanted nice, you're barking up the wrong tree.
And I say the same thing a different way. I'm happy to be the asshole.
Yeah.
Right? Because sometimes you don't need a hero. Sometimes you need an asshole. Yeah. And I'm happy to be that guy.
I'll give you a story really quickly just because we're trying to keep it lighthearted. So I was in this networking group. I'm no longer in it because it was great when it started, as all things are.
Yeah.
And then as soon as there became a hierarchy because people got given a role, and this is all volunteer-based. No one got money out of this. Those who were the leadership team, as we want to call them, all of a sudden behaved a bit differently.
Yeah.
There was an air of superiority.
Yeah.
And if you know anything about this girl, I don't cop that. I'm just like...
Got a bit of a problem with people in authority, especially people who are pretending to have authority they don't have.
Yes. And like little lone wolf over here was just like, oh, okay. I entertained it. Yeah. And for the most part, I just keep my mouth shut.
Sure.
But there has been a couple of instances along the way where I was like, no, that's not cool. Let's not do that.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very considerate in the way I first do it. You get a little bit of a warning shot.
You only shout if they ignore you when you whisper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get a little bit of a warning shot. I'm not just a straight out bitch. But then anyway, long story short, I decided to leave. I was like, thank you, but no thank you. And my email to them was lovely. It wasn't rude at all. There's no point. I'm not into burning bridges. And I just left.
Yeah.
Anyway, as always happened, they had to save face because quite a few people have left.
Yeah.
And we've all left for our own reasons, but I think at the core of it, we're all just like...
There's a cultural issue there. Yeah.
If 10 people are leaving...
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just left it, whatever. And then as things do, gossip travels very fast, particularly in a community like Bayside.
Faster than the truth, yes.
Faster than truth. And rather than just saying, Carly's left, it was, we needed to push Carly out because I don't know if you know, but there's this stuff about her on the internet.
Wow.
So
they went there.
So then all of a sudden,
that's amazing.
The screenshots of the Google search were sent around, and then it was like, oh my God, and I was like, no, this is not the day that you fuck with me, because my dog had chronic diarrhea on the carpet yesterday, so I was in a mood.
Stay tuned, everybody. This is going to go John Wick.
Oh, worse. I was in a mood, can I just tell you? And if you've ever had a dog, like...
I've had a dog do it from both ends in 14 different spots in their house. Yeah. Yeah, including, by the way, the runner at the bottom of the sliding door. Yeah. So it was down in the drainage holes. Yeah, it was amazing. So good.
Yeah, it just fills you with joy.
Doesn't it? Anyway, we're telling your story right now.
Anyway, so you can imagine, just I tell you that for context, because you might imagine one little thing was going to make me fucking beam out Vesuvius. And I get this little tidbit, and I was like, ooh.
Doing your own sound effects there. Just for those listening, she was doing a knuckle crack, but she couldn't get her knuckles to actually make any noise, so she went herself. I love it.
And I was just like, this is too good. Because if I love anything in life, it's a spicy Carl's email. And so I have the memory of an elephant, and I store things up like all good women. And one of these women who was spreading, the shit about me, she was in a financial predicament where she couldn't actually afford my full rate. And I offered her a very generous discount out of just courtesy. No worries, mate.
Sure.
That's secret safe with me. That's the same person who then decided to go spread the shit. And I was like, So the find out was basically an email to the entire group just saying, hey, I hear you guys are trading screenshots at the moment. I find it very cowardly of you because you were happy to take my business and take my money. And when I've sent you a very kind email saying, hey, I can't do it anymore, but thank you. I wish you all the best and hope to see you again. You were like, oh, that doesn't work for us. Let's bitch about her. I gave you, I said her name. I should probably put that. Like I said, I do it from my face, so I know I did it. So, right. You begged me for a discount. I gave it to you, and I expected that courtesy to be met with integrity.
Yeah.
And the other one, if you can believe it, her business is something trust. It's all about trust and building leadership and groups.
Because hypocrisy isn't rife amongst people who claim
who
those
better
sorts of
to build
virtues.
trust and virtuosity in a group setting than the person who is instigating the gossip.
Trust building and backstabbing are they are close cousins.
And I just wrote that in that little email.
Yeah.
And I just said, maybe you should look at the culture within to wonder why people are leaving so quickly. You are burning bridges quicker than you can build them. And then the best thing about my emails is I have a thing which tells me when my emails get opened and how often they get opened and if they get forwarded. There was a lot of action in like 5 minutes yesterday. You go, hold on. It's not really nice. Good. Cat among the pigeons.
Every now and then a Molotov cocktail really does solve your problems.
It's felt great. I'm not even going to I did it.
Don't sugarcoat it.
Right.
Fantastic.
So that's what I mean when we're in the find out era. And this is the thing, we talk about owing people nice. I think we've been nice for too long.
Yeah.
We've been polite for too long. And that's why, I talked about last week. Did I say this on the podcast? I think I was saying with the youth crime, this is going to create a race issue.
Yeah.
Because we're not allowed to have the conversation. Yeah. And I don't think should ever get to this point, but don't be surprised, man. If you metaphorically and maybe physically are getting some punches in the face every now and then.
But this comes back to parenting. It comes back to office culture where HR and your boss isn't allowed to criticize you properly anymore. He has to do it in this really, really, it has to be 360 degree, blah, blah, blah. No. buck up, do your job properly.
Yeah.
I had a situation last night. I was out at a.
Did you do it too?
No. There was I was saved by a school teacher.
Oh.
I was out with some. One of my son's friends is moving away, and there was a going away party for their sort of family.
That's hard.
And we all met up at a pub, having a good time. No one's drinking hard in our group. I'm drinking Coke and had a nice steak. My son had a Parma, and they're playing. And yes, you can have ice cream. Yes, you can have a Coke. Yes, I'm doing that kind of. My son's having a great time. Sugar high, all the rest of it. Out in the car park, because it's a country pub and they play in the car park. There were some older kids, some teenage kids, who were being very inappropriate for the younger kids and actually pushing them over at times and being quite physical. And so the younger kids came inside and they were like, oh, this is going on. We're like, okay, well, there's the pub's nearly empty. You've plenty of room for you to goof off over there, no problem. We're just about to wind up, and over comes a significantly inebriated woman who has a head of steam.
Oh, no.
And she starts shouting at the table full of mums and me and another token dad. One of your kids called my kid fat. I want to know which one it was and what you're going to do about it.
All right, Karen, calm down.
And we're like, so first we've heard of it, first of all. Secondly, the thing that goes through my head is, well,
are they fat?
Were they wrong? Right? Is this an accurate description? You're dealing with 6 and 7 and 8-year-olds.
Yeah.
If you have a morbidly obese child, number one, that says that you are a terrible freaking parent.
I was going to say, yeah.
Right? And it might just be an anatomically correct description.
Yeah.
Anyway, no, the child wasn't that big, a little bit tubby, and it was an unkind thing to have said, but was probably said in the context of what was going on in that car park. It was probably said in the heat of moment of having been pushed over by that tubby 14, 15-year-old when they were a 6 or 7 or 8-year-old. Okay?
Consequence.
And so I'm debating, do I open my mouth? Because I ain't taken no shit, but she's also very drunk. And I'm male, which means I'm instantly the bad guy.
And you're white.
If anything else, if anything were to happen, if she were to get physical, if anything else were to go down, I'm instantly the bad guy until proven innocent. And it's generally not possible to prove your innocence when you're a middle-aged white male. So I'm debating what to do in my head. And thankfully, across the table from me was a very experienced, probably in her 40s is my guess, but a very experienced school teacher who had the capacity to be the school mistress, the school marm with the kids, but also had the capacity to deal with drunk, raging mum. And she defused the mum. Okay, yes, I'm so sorry that's happened. Look, I'm going to have a conversation. I promise you I'll do it myself. I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to have a conversation with the kids. Da-da-da-da. Anyway, so the mum then goes and gathers up her clan and starts marching out. And I had a good look. And the mum is swearing, like stuff that I won't repeat here because it would trigger YouTube. And was basically saying that we were raising a bunch of ferals.
Oh. As she's drunk with her children
as
in a
she's
pub.
drunk in front of her kids. And I looked at her daughter and I felt so sorry for her.
Yeah.
Because she's being raised with a terrible example to start with, but also in a world where she doesn't have to fight her own battles, in a world where she gets to be the victim when she was the one pushing over other people's kids, and in a world where her parents are making her fat. It's not her fault at her age, right? Her parents are making her fat. She is eating a terrible diet and not getting nearly enough physical activity in her life. That's just a biological fact. And yet she's being protected from even the mention of this reality. And I just thought, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
You are condemned. You are going to have to either suffer for the rest of your life or suffer until you have a Damascus Road moment, a moment of clarity and realization where you completely change your life and abandon everything that you were taught as a kid. Either of those roads is incredibly hard. Yeah. And I'm so sorry, but I can't help you.
You know, it's interesting you say that because we've talked about Gen Z before, and I did ask G's permission if I could share this story because I'm not in the business of like ruining people's lives on a podcast.
But you say that a lot, so it's kind of it might not be in the business, but it's a side hustle now.
Spicy Carlz, she's her own woman. That's right.
She's got to make money somehow.
She don't care.
She ain't going to make money on OnlyFans.
Spicy Carlz is basically a honey badger. Honey badger don't care.
Oh yeah.
No, we do care a little bit. No, so G has a bit of a pickle where there's a staff member who's not doing well.
Right.
And, G is kinder than he needs to be. He is the example of someone that just has more patience than most people I know.
Sure.
He has everyone's patience.
Yeah.
Anyway, he was he's tried everything to help this person out. And this person just doesn't seem like they want to help themselves out.
Yeah.
Like, G's was up like till 11 o'clock the other night, like preparing this sort of like checklist and all these documents for this person to like really like get the information. And the other person just doesn't appreciate how much effort his boss is going to help him.
Yeah.
B has no interest in actually trying. And like G and I were talking about it because, he's at his wit's end. And you can't just fire people these days.
Yeah.
You got to go through all the paperwork.
Yeah.
Anyway, and this person is mid-20s, still lives at home. And we were talking about it, and I said, isn't it incredibly sad that this person's like an adult and has been brought up in a home where clearly, and I'm speculating, but it feels fairly obvious to me, he's had everything done for him. He's never had to try. Mum and dad stepped in all the time. And even now, when you have a boss who is going beyond to try and help you so you don't fail, you can't even recognize it.
Yeah.
And I said to him, at this point, babe, I think you just have to go, he's got to fall on his butt.
Yeah, correct.
That's the only way this person learns.
There are people who, for as long as you try and hold them up, they will not
You're
work.
actually delaying.
Correct. They have to hit that bottom.
Yeah.
They have to have that experience. And it's at that point that they realize, success isn't automatic. I'm not just magically, I'm not immune from the consequences.
Yeah. Oh, and the good news of that, though, is I am not a mechanic, but I passed none of the actual questions. I couldn't actually answer any of the mechanic questions, but I actually was good at problem solving the mechanic problems.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well
Not
done.
bad.
Well done you.
I used
I am
logic.
not bringing my car to you for a service.
Do not.
Yeah.
He's like, what are the 4 foundations of a combustion engine? I was like, metal.
Metal. Yeah. Air, fuel, and fire.
Yeah, I was like, no. He's like, this is like first year apprentice stuff. And I was like,
Yeah.
what? Anyway, that was that. So,
All right, what do we got left?
oh God, with the tangents. Oh God, I can't even. Oh, Abby.
Abby. Good old Abby.
That's where we were going to go.
She's
from
the other half of our podcast.
She is, and we're grateful for Abby because with someone with that lacking in a social self-awareness, is great for podcast material.
It is amazing, this kind of tearful, pity me, I'm the victim here video coming from someone who, now to be fair, she's not a Clementine Ford, okay?
I'm going to argue she's up there.
All right.
Yep.
But, she's had every advantage. She was cast in a reality TV show. She's got a podcast. The Prime Minister comes on her podcast. I'm sorry, but let me say this. If you get to where you wanted to be and then you discover you can't hack it, it's probably an indication that you were given an easier ride than you should have.
That's a really good saying, yeah.
And this is one of the perverse outcomes of any kind of affirmative action, any kind of artificial helping hand. It's like helping that butterfly out of the cocoon, and you're actually killing it because it doesn't have the strength in its wings because it didn't get the blood flow there because it didn't have to do the work. Someone like myself, 16 years in, having copped the blows that I've had, the criminal prosecutions, the haters, the websites dedicated to taking me down, all of that stuff, there's not much you can do to touch me anymore. You're not going to have me in tears on social media begging you to stop.
Yeah.
Why? Because my wings are fucking strong.
Yeah. That's a great example, yeah.
I think that this meltdown is an indication that she got an easier ride than she needed.
We could call it pretty privilege, and also, she was on the right side of politics.
She was on the right side of politics. I think that's got a lot to do with it. And people meant well.
Yeah.
Like, here's an up-and-comer. Let's give her a leg up. Well, hang on. Are you actually depriving her, talking about the discipline, talking about all that side of things, are you depriving her of the struggle that she needs so that when she gets to where she wants to be, she can hack it?
It's just on that. We'll come back to Abby in a second. Tangent time. I think you're right because, for example, I'm almost 40 and I feel like my career is just starting to take off.
Life begins at 40.
Yeah, and I've not to say that I haven't put in God knows how much work into it, but I actually do feel like, you know those, I use this analogy a lot, but you know those cars where you have to like wind them back to get all the energy?
Zzz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like someone has been doing that to me for the better part of half a decade, just like winding my wheels up.
Yeah.
And they haven't quite let me go. And I'm like, let me go. And they're like, no, more friction.
Yeah.
And I actually do feel like that has made me a better photographer, a better artist, but it's also made me hungrier. It's almost like I've become insatiable.
But if I can talk about your masters for a second, there's a twist. There's a twist. Someone else is bringing up your masters.
I told you my house is bugged. Yes.
No, you've been talking in recent weeks. Oh, well, last week you were saying how you've reached a point where you've struck on something that's really strong and really good, and your lecturers are like, Carly, this is amazing.
Yeah, got there eventually.
Yes, but you had to go through the grind to get there. If you'd been the golden child with the right politics and everything else, the first thing you put in front of them, they would have been, oh, yes,
and then you wouldn't have actually tried.
You wouldn't have had to work that muscle, dig that bit deeper and discover that you had more.
Yeah.
And that's Abby Chatfield right now.
Yes. I think so. Look, first things first, mental health is a thing, and I understand what it's like to have trolls come after you. I've just talked about Tattle life. The issue is the lacking of self-awareness here is twofold. One, it's you are actually one of the biggest instigators of online bullying, particularly during the COVID era. She was vicious, and she could get away with it because she
was on the right side.
She was on the right side, and particularly around the vaccine. Pardon me, Abby. Every day, have you got the vaccine yet? Why haven't you got the vaccine? Oh, you're a cooker. You know, she Abby is particularly vicious. Her and Clementine Ford. What's wrong with my microphone?
I'm just putting the cable in. Sorry.
Right. I love that you do that in the podcast.
Yeah, in the podcast, middle of the podcast. Yeah.
So then she's turned around and said that she's taken a year. She's getting trolled. She needs to take some time off. She's not. She's just going overseas. And I think that's her way of saying like, oh, guys, I'm like taking some annual leave from my day job.
Yeah.
And she did. She put up a post saying, oh, please approve my annual leave. But rather than reflecting, hey, why am I getting trolled so much? Why am I getting this hate? Is there something that maybe I am doing to cause it?
Yeah.
No. It's all right-wing trolls.
You're asking for reflection and self-awareness. And look, the thing would be, again, the same as with you, same as with me, a very small number of people trying to make themselves appear very big. But unfortunately, what happens with any of these psychologies, on the left of politics, the right of politics, or whatever, the minute they see that they're having an effect, they redouble their efforts.
Yes.
You have to. So this is why you don't negotiate with terrorists. You do not give an inch to these kinds of psychologies and these kinds of people, because if they see they're having no effect, they get bored and move on very quickly. If they see they're having an effect, well, then you've got them. They're going to stick around for a while.
Yeah. So this is the thing she put up. It's like, please approve my annual leave. But basically, again, waterworks. Got to get the tears out, because nothing says take me seriously like crying on the internet. And to this, I just say, just put your phone down, babe.
Yeah.
You don't need to announce it. Put it down.
That was my number one piece of advice to you when you were in the real shit.
Yeah.
Was you've got to turn that thing off.
Yeah.
And you've got to leave it off for a while, because
do not log on.
The minute you turn that thing off,
Doesn't
it's
exist.
gone.
Yeah.
The world is still here. The sun is out.
Yeah. And actually, that's that advice. The internet, we give it so much credibility as if it's like this real thing. When you turn your phone off and when you like close your laptop or whatever, it's not there.
Yeah, it's
None
not
of
there.
it's not
exist.
real.
Not real. So I can't remember who it was, but it was an actor who mentioned this in a podcast, but even they were saying that someone else had said it to them. So I don't know who said this originally, but they said, if you've got a problem with me, call me and we'll talk about it. And if you don't have my phone number, you don't know me well enough to have a problem with me.
Yes. I like that.
Right.
That's
and
great.
I think that's really quite powerful. And the internet gives people access to you when they don't know you well enough to have a problem with you.
The other thing I'll say too is like, just someone who has got a public profile, like nowhere near as big as Abby, obviously.
Yeah.
Abby relishes putting up every detail of her life on the internet.
Sure.
So this is her partner. He's in a band.
Yep.
His name's Adam Hyde. He's in the band Peking Duck.
Okay, I've heard of them.
Yeah. Every detail of their relationships online, including their sex life.
Oh,
so if you don't want people to talk about you, babe, don't give them things to talk about.
Yeah.
And she recently had a podcast with a TikTok star who's a high-end escort, because everything comes down to sex, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. And on this podcast, she's starting to get called out by, like, this is back to me and G's bucket theory. She's starting to get called out by her own following, but rather than recognizing it's her own followers who are calling her out, she's just blaming right-wing trolls.
Sure.
And like that's what I mean with the self-awareness. But she was on this podcast with this escort who that's her career. That's her chosen career is to be an escort. She's telling her stories. Abby, rather than letting this person tell the stories, had to compete because Abby has to be top dog. And so there was a comment where she's like, talking about Abby herself sleeping with women and, basically just trying to exert that extra bit of dominance or to take over the conversation. And her own following of like, this is getting embarrassing now. You're trying too hard.
Yeah.
I think Abby is in her find out era.
Yeah, and again, if you haven't had to work for it, you haven't built that muscle, then when a test of strength comes, you haven't got the strength, you haven't got the depth, you haven't got, people make the mistake of thinking that I have a big following because of what I did during COVID. But there's lots of people who did the same thing as me during COVID. Yeah. And they don't have big followings. And some of them are completely fine with that. Among them are a few individuals who have really got their noses out of joint. I did the same as you and you don't deserve this, blah, blah, blah. No. What you don't understand is that all of what I did during COVID isn't the reason why people follow me. That was what built the muscles that I needed intellectually and as a communicator and everything else. That's my calling card. That's my origin story.
Yeah.
And they follow me because of what I say and do right now. And the reality is you never cultivated the ability to grapple with ideas and communicate them in a way that anyone wants to listen to you. They're not following me because I did that during COVID and you did the same thing, therefore you should have the same following. No, they're following me because I can take complicated ideas, distill them down and communicate them in a way that connects.
Well, not only that, like if anyone that builds an audience, it comes down to relatability and authenticity. And you can't fake it. You can't try and be authentic. You either are or you're not.
Well, once you can fake authenticity, you've got it made.
Well, this is the thing. Like, people can smell a rat pretty quickly. And if you want to build up an audience, it's because there's a consistency in the way you show up.
Sure.
Again, you can't manufacture it because eventually it becomes really tedious and your mask slips. Yeah. And that's why you see people who have this mediocre rise to success or they become super viral on social media and then in the same breath, bang, boom.
Yep.
They can't retain it. And so the slow build's actually way more substantial because people get to know you.
Yeah.
And then you also get used to having that size audience.
And you get to know you as well. You get tested.
Imagine if you went viral in one day and all of a sudden you got 2 million followers and then they have no context for you and then they see you do something and then all of a sudden you get this mass cancellation because they didn't know who you were to begin with.
Or if that happens and you don't know who you are, then you start going, trying to read the wind. What do they want from me? Which way do they want me to go? Who do they want me to be? And you lose yourself.
Yes, exactly. Which is why old mate who keeps asking us to make a video.
Yeah,
can I encourage you? Please make your own.
Yeah.
There we go. Well, I've got 3 topics left.
All right, let's blast through them because we're at the 2.5 hour mark.
Yeah, and I'm busting to the bathroom. This one doesn't really need much. The leftist protesters who have gone to Egypt.
Okay, give me a rundown on this. I actually know nothing.
There's so many videos on it. Do you want me to pull one up?
So this is basically Greta Thunberg on foot.
Yeah, so they're I think everyone threatened them about going to Egypt. They actually went to Egypt.
Yeah.
And the Egyptian police are having none of it. They're just no, I'm not dealing with this. So they've staged I don't know what you call it, sit downs and whatever. I've got a video here. I'll pull it up. And the Egyptian police are just can you just get out of here, basically.
This is delicious. This is fuck around, find out. Absolutely.
So why can't we can do it in America? Why can't we do it here? Because you're in Egypt. I don't know how else to digest that for you, but I'll play a little bit. Hang on.
Wow.
Please listen to me.
Your name, please. Yes, brother, speak. Can you declare yourself?
Hold on.
He doesn't need to.
We are the police, and we are announcing through our police. Okay.
Respect the country.
Please respect our country and listen to us.
Total respect. We just asking with politeness. I can go. Listen. I can with total respect. Okay.
You can't stay. It's against this country law. You can't stay there.
Yeah.
How's old mate on the? Just listen. No, listen. Yeah. The cops are talking to you, bro.
There's an element of culture there. Whatever, that's fine. But yes, the sheer arrogance. Again, like Greta thinking, they should just let me through their blockade.
I'm Greta. Of course they'll let me.
In my opinion, they should have let her through specifically so that she could find out. But that's just me being a living troll. Imagine the arrogance. I'm going to fly in from America or the UK, wherever, there's a group of people there that probably come from different places. Imagine I'm going to fly into this other country and they're going to let me walk across a closed border into a known war zone.
Yeah.
Where, by the way, when I get into trouble, they're the people that I'm going to be calling on to try and get me out of trouble. It's like if you were trying to get into a tinny when there's a cyclone coming. You're like, no, I want to go and ride the waves. And the Coast Guard's like, no, we're the people that are going to get called out there to try and rescue your skinny, sorry ass
and
when you get yourself into trouble. And we don't want to, so we're not letting you go.
Well, it's interesting because, I mean, this has been a discussion point for ages. They keep blaming Israel, and they're like, well, hang on a minute. Jordan and Egypt share a border.
Yeah.
Why aren't they doing anything?
And they don't want those Palestinian refugees. It's like they know something.
Yeah. And so now people are like, oh, well, we'll go to Egypt then.
Yeah. Yep.
And they're like, let my people go.
But this is also just a great, like, I love this because this is an extension of freedom of speech. And freedom of speech has to incorporate freedom of association and all of the other basic freedoms. You know, you were talking before about you believe in freedom of speech, but also there's consequences.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And if you deny freedom of association or these other freedoms, then people get away with speech that they shouldn't be allowed to get away with. Not that the government should stop them, but that there should be consequences. And so I go, yeah, you can travel to Egypt. You know, if Egypt's travel laws are going to let you in, absolutely, you can walk up to that border, and then we get this delicious video of you being made a fool of and clearly not understanding anything about the planet that you're on.
But of all the things to go to Egypt for, I mean, it's Egypt, guys. There's so much to see.
Well, I mean, most of it's in the London Museum. I mean, you know why the pyramids are in Egypt?
Because the British couldn't move them?
Couldn't carry them, yeah. Yeah, that's why they're still in Egypt.
It's actually really true. Yeah. Anyway, that was that topic.
That was fun. I enjoyed that.
One more, and then we'll end on a good note. So Jacinta Allen's crackdown on youth crime content. She's shared new laws criminalising the sharing and filming of assaults and thefts because nothing says you take crime seriously than getting upset about some social media posts.
And this is amazing. So what she's saying is, you know, people bragging on the internet, that sort of stuff. But as best as I can tell, I haven't read the legislation, but reading what's being said about the legislation, it criminalizes posting videos of crimes. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't appear to criminalize the perpetrator posting videos of crimes or an accomplice posting videos of crimes. So what this has the potential to do, and again, I haven't read the legislation, I'm reading what's being said by Jacinta Allen and others about the legislation. Potentially what we've got here is a situation where the nightly news won't be able to show you CCTV footage.
Yeah.
Because, oh, no, that's a video of a crime.
Sounds great, doesn't it? Yeah.
And they say, oh, no, but we wouldn't do it like that. Well, I don't trust you. Sorry. I don't, you know, but we'd use our judgment. I don't trust your judgment.
This woman is going to do anything but put these kids behind bars.
Yeah, correct.
Anything but deal with the problem.
All right, well, how are those tougher bail laws working out now?
Well, they're not.
They're not, correct.
Going through the roof.
The machete laws have worked really, really well.
Yeah,
now we've got more machete fights happening on the streets, and as well as other weapons being used. Actual real consequences are what is needed. This is just fluffing around the edges. Let them post it online so that you can gather the evidence.
Yeah.
The problem here isn't that they're posting their crimes online. The problem is that you're running a Rex Hunt catch and release justice system.
Yes.
That's the problem.
The thing about posting it online too, though, is like at the end of the day, we're talking about children. They're sloppy. It's a lot easier to track them down, to figure out who they are, to tie them to all the other crimes and to see all the stuff that they've stolen. Like, let them do it.
They're doing the prosecutor's job for them.
Correct.
The only thing missing is actual consequences when they get caught.
The only reason Jacinta doesn't want it on social media is she doesn't want to keep copping the slack every time she sees something.
I think you're probably onto something there.
It's almost like I know. Anyway, I can't be bothered. Jacinta Allen, literally go fuck yourself.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's the theme of the show.
That's the theme, yeah.
All right, last one. G and I just finished up the latest season of Clarkson's Farm.
I do love Clarkson.
And I know you like it too.
I mean, I like Jeremy Clarkson. Some people can't stand him. I've always liked him. He's a bit of a buffoon. He can be a bit too much sometimes, but I do like him. And therefore, for me, Clarkson's Farm was just a match made in heaven.
I love it. And I've always loved Top Gear. I've loved the Grand Tour, all of them. And I love that they cross into each other's projects and they swap over and, and I thought it was funny. He's like, everyone's welcome here except Keir Starmer and James May.
Yeah, at the pub.
But so we were watching it, and so if you guys haven't watched it, it's on Amazon. Highly recommend. It's a good watch. But
it's 4 seasons now. Just start at the beginning and just binge watch the whole lot.
Yeah. The reason I want to bring it up on the podcast is there's some themes there, and I actually really applaud Jeremy for doing this.
I think yes, I know where you're going, and it's outstanding. Yeah.
And I think what Jeremy's done is, yes, there's a TV show, but actually what he's doing is infiltrating all of our living rooms to show you what's happening to the farming community at large. Yep. And all of the bureaucracy and the red tape, all the council
the
stuff.
Wasteful green schemes.
Yep. making it almost impossible. And so what's happened this particular season, it was a really wet winter. All the crops basically were muddy and barely anything grew, so they didn't get much yield. And so at the end of this whole farming, year, they go to, they do the harvest, they've got all the grain, and then they go to sell it and it gets weighed and all this sort of stuff. And some of it didn't even register. They couldn't even sell it.
It wasn't up. There was a quality issue with it. It didn't have some particular characteristic, and that just became stock feed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just, God, it was like, I was just sitting there going, far out. And then you watch them all in the pub, they're all having a drink and they're all sort of commiserating. And he made a comment, I can't remember the quote, but it was basically like, the only thing that gets farmers to get back up again next year is just the promise of another year.
Yeah.
Next year will be better.
I think almost this naive kind of hope.
And I was just like, oh my God. And you like, this is happening here. And so the key issue I thought was worth talking about was the abattoirs. So you might know more about this than I do, but essentially what's happening is in Britain, they're basically clamping down on small business run abattoirs.
Yeah.
So locally, so you got to think about it, right? And for some of you guys who care about the meat and the quality of meat that you eat, the closer the abattoir is to the farm, the less the stock is rattled and stressed, and the better your meat tastes, basically. Because at the end of the day, you're eating muscle, right? So if that muscle dies with tension, well, then all of those endorphins and all of the adrenaline and all that sort of stuff is actually in the muscle's tissue still. And it affects the quality of the meat. And so, traditionally the abattoir would be either down the road or, not too far away. So your livestock doesn't have far to travel. Now what they're doing is they're like, through all the bureaucracy, red tape and all this regulation, they're saying that no, you can't do that anymore. And what it's doing is it's becoming cost prohibitive for these small businesses to run. So they have nothing to do but close, or the big guys can swoop in and scoop them up.
Yeah.
And so now what you're doing is exactly what they've done with so many businesses here or industries here in Australia, is that you have these corporate cronies.
Yeah.
And it's all condensed into a couple of big companies, and then they can set the prices.
This to me is a continuation of the war on primary production. So they're using red and green tape, and particularly water restrictions in the Murray-Darling Basin. That's a topic I've been banging on about since 2011. They're using regulatory environments, hostile regulatory environments, to punish our food and fibre growers. But the abattoir thing is a way for them to particularly target the meat industry, which is, of course, the enemy of greenies, vegans, vegetarians, and also CO2 and methane and all that other nonsense that they carry on about. That's right. And so I have a little bit to do with some of the farmers up around my area. Not much, but I know a few of them, and we talk from time to time. And this abattoir issue is absolutely happening here in Australia. It is devastating. What's happening right now, so take, for example, right now, we've got a bunch of farmers in drought. Now, the drought looks like it might have just broken for most of northern Victoria and southern New South Wales just literally in the last week. But they've been in a horrific drought. And even once the drought breaks, it doesn't mean there's instantly feed for your cattle. It takes time. So it's still a really bad situation. And there are farmers. I helped a farmer the other day via this friend of mine to sell off a bunch of their cows that were then turned into basically sort of low-grade meat. They weren't intended to be meat cows, but they're perfectly edible. There's nothing wrong with them. But you're not going to have a prime steak out of it. Great for mince, great for sausages, great for stews, great for all of that sort of stuff. And I put it out there on my social media pages, and a bunch of you guys on my social media pages jumped on board, and I bought 5 kilos. I bought 20 kilos myself. That'll show up. I'll have to find room in the freezer. But that'll keep us going for quite some time. And it helped that farmer out. And here's the reality. We are paying stupid amounts of money for meat on the supermarket shelves. And yet simultaneously the farmers cannot find buyers for their cows. They have to kill them and literally just bury them or burn them. Why? How can that be happening at the same time? Well, because there's a bottleneck in the middle where the farmer has to sell it to an abattoir. They can't kill it themselves and cut it up themselves and then sell it. It has to go to someone who's licensed to do that. And that bottleneck means that not a lot of animals are able to be processed. So there's a massive oversupply issue with not enough animals being able to be processed. Every farmer's trying to sell off their herd. Now they can't get $1 for their cows. But on the flip side, because of the capacity constraints that these abattoirs have, because they're being hit with regulation after regulation that's making it harder and harder for them to do their jobs, the meat that they can supply is flying off the shelves.
Yeah.
And so supermarkets can charge top dollar for it.
Yeah.
And so simultaneously, we have farmers going bankrupt because their animals are worthless, and consumers being gouged because because we can't afford the price of meat on the shelves. And the problem is the regulation that's now being applied to the abattoirs. So what this farmer friend of mine did was make some sort of an arrangement so that there are laws around, there are ways that mobile abattoirs can operate and other sorts of arrangements. And I don't think this was a mobile abattoir. I think this was just him getting some cows in with an abattoir that he has a relationship with. That was willing to prioritise him, and he was able to help out this other farmer and mean that he actually got some money for these cows.
Yeah.
But that's just one farmer. I mean, there are so many suffering all over the place. And they're being strangled on purpose, in my opinion, by ideologues that have got a hold of government power and have got themselves into bureaucratic positions where they can strangle these people slowly for their own ideological reasons, taking away their irrigation water, red tape and green tape and costs, regulating them out of existence. In Clarkson's farm, so I adore what Clarkson's done with this. He highlights so many issues from town planning and local council issues, but one of the things he highlighted a lot more in season 4 was that they get offered money, and it doesn't happen as much here, I don't believe, but in the UK they get offered stupid amounts of money to grow non-food crops.
Yeah.
So they're literally being paid a guaranteed amount of money. Nothing's guaranteed in farming. You plant a crop, you're banking on the weather. No, they get the money regardless. They get guaranteed money, and it's a lot per acre if they plant a bunch of wildflowers and other kind of mixed stuff that can't be eaten, and it can't really be used as very good feed either. It is of no use for human purposes.
Yeah.
But the government will take taxpayer money off humans and hand it over to the farmer as the only kind of guaranteed income a farmer could ever hope to get.
Yeah.
It's so perverse. But I want to come back to what he's done with Clarkson's farm, because what he's done is he's made a wonderful piece of entertainment that helps people that helps to change how people see the world, and it's brilliant. The only other person that I think did that as well as what Clarkson's doing, and in fact Clarkson's doing it better, but if you adjust for the time, for the era, I think it's pretty similar, was the Dirty Jobs. Mike Rowe and Dirty Jobs.
Yeah.
Now, he went into that with the agenda of normalising, and in fact, more than normalising, of elevating dirty jobs, people who work hard for a living, trades, services, porta potty cleaners and ice, whatever, just the guys that are doing the hard work to earn their money. He deliberately, intentionally went into that show to lionize those people, to lift them up, to glorify that. And he successfully did that. And he's had a huge impact on American culture, and the shift away from this idea that, if you don't go to university, you're a failure and you'll never be financially successful, and all those sorts of presumptions. He helped to break a lot of that, a lot of those lies. And Clarkson is having, I think, a similar effect with Clarkson's farm. In this case, he's shifting people's attitudes or raising people's awareness of just how much we're being strangled by government.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's done in such a way that you don't feel like this is, there's an agenda here.
It's so well done.
You can see it clear as day, but it's not perverse. He's not trying to convince you.
And it's genuinely entertaining.
Oh, it's actually just funny when he narrates. Yeah. And I love that, he's driving his tractor around. He's got a Lamborghini tractor, of course.
Super,
and,
super excited,
And then Hammond comes in and, he's called his, little runt pig, Richard Ham.
And also, it's reality TV in the sense that the outcomes aren't known.
No.
We are actually watching.
But it's showing the realities of farming, because it was at season 3, he had all the problems with the pigs. And remember the pig igloos was an invention. Wasn't that his invention?
No, not the igloos, but the bar that went around them that did help to reduce the mortality rate. Yeah,
I didn't know that was, when would I ever learn that,
And Clarkson makes the point repeatedly, to be honest, and credit to him for doing this. He makes the point from time to time through all the seasons, he doesn't depend on farming for his living.
No.
But most farmers do.
Yes.
And the reality now is you talk to any farmer that isn't on a massive commercial scale farm, they need off-farm income.
Yeah.
The wife's gone back to work at the local school, or he's heading out to drive trucks and do deliveries, or they actually can't survive off farming. And these can be farms with 1,000, 2,000 acres. These aren't tiny little hobby operations.
I know we talked about this, and I promised I'd end on a good note. But we've talked about Zimbabwe or Rhodesia. We've talked about what happened with the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
I don't know, is this just mass ignorance? Is it nefarious? The people cheering this on, your vegans, your green activists, your climate crusaders, Is it purely because they're so corrupted by ideology they can't actually see what happens down the road, or do they just not care? Is it a callousness? I don't know.
I don't think they think that those outcomes will happen because they're so disconnected.
Yeah.
So we are the first generation, or now I guess it's the second generation, to not routinely travel to the country for holidays.
Yeah.
Everyone had a relative that had a farm, and going to the farm during the holidays and spending 2 weeks out there was sort of part of the routine.
Yeah.
A part of a way of life in Australia. And now we have entire generations that are purely urban. And this was something, if you go back to the Nicky Cruz days in Los Angeles when they had that round of gang wars, he would talk about, he came from, I think, Puerto Rico to the US, didn't speak English, was thrust into this gang environment, joined the gangs, did well in the gangs, ended up killing people and so forth. And then he became a Christian and he transformed his life. And now he tries to help people get out of the gangs and he's written books about it and all that sort of stuff. He tells this incredible story. And he told me, I read his books, and he talks about how your entire world is this couple of city blocks, this concrete jungle. You have no connection outside of that. And therefore, the littlest, slightest thing within that becomes so important. Oh, that person from that gang set foot over that line in the pavement. That's the line between our territories. And now we have to go on, all that becomes a massive deal. And they're completely disconnected from the real world. Yeah. And I thought, I just can't imagine anyone in Australia living like that. And then a few years ago, I met a guy up in Sydney, and we met in person at an event, and we got talking about his life. I was driving him back to his place. He's never left about a 5-suburb area of Sydney in his entire life.
Wow.
He was born in a hospital within that area, and he's never been outside of it. Now, his family's ethnic. His family comes from overseas. But he's been within about a 5-suburb area. When I was in the US many, many years ago working on a short film over there, I met a guy in a place called Centerville in Tennessee, and it's the middle of Tennessee. And he was there working in a tent full of firecrackers because Independence Day was coming up. And so they do these big pop-up tents. And I got chatting with him, and he was, you're from Australia, blah, blah, blah. We talked. He was proud of the fact that he'd never left Centerville. And I asked him and I re-asked him, I'm like, so you mean you haven't traveled to Nashville? You haven't traveled to Chattanooga. You haven't, no. I haven't left my zip code.
That's insane to me.
It is. It's insane to me as well.
Yeah.
But this is what we're dealing with vegan activists and these people that are systematically tearing down the food production. They think it comes from the supermarket. They are detached. They are disconnected from the reality of all of the work that has to go on in order for that to show up fresh and edible.
And how many people rely on that?
Yeah, well, they rely on that. They just don't. They don't.
Well, we see this a lot though. Like, you'd be aware of the rivalry between the south and the north of Melbourne.
Yeah,
the whole joke about don't cross the river.
Yeah.
Right. And I look, to be fair, I do say that. Yeah. But you know what's funny is you do kind of become not institutionalized, but you be kind of
insular.
Yeah, you do. You become a creature of habit. So we call it the Bayside bubble, right? Which starts from about, I don't know if you'd call Port Melbourne Bayside, but like anyone that lives like that side of the Nepean Highway. And the reason it's called the bubble is because it's so hard to get anywhere. You have to get out of the bubble and then get onto the main arterials to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And I lived in Hampton for like almost 10 years on and off. And in that time, you just get so used to just going, I'll just go across there, I'll go over there. The idea of going to Chadstone was like,
it's so far.
And so you just go to Southland, whatever. Yeah. Anyway, now we're out of Bayside. We are right near an on-ramp to Eastlink.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
I can get anywhere really quick.
Yeah.
It's amazing. All of a sudden I'm like, north side, just jump on there, get on the Monash and then go over here.
Easy. Yeah.
I haven't had access to the freeways for a long time.
Yeah.
And you sort of go, so like I've been making trips over to Carlton, much to G's dismay. He hates it.
All the way to Carlton. Gosh, what a traveller you are.
Yeah, look at me. No, but you know what I mean? You sort of go, But then you go over that side. So I've been spending a little bit of time in the north, mostly just because there's some food places I wanted to go to.
Yeah.
And it's so funny. It's a different world.
Yeah.
And this is why we're at odds with each other, because like as soon as you cross the river, you go Richmond, Collingwood, Carlton, then Brunswick, God knows Fitzroy, like that whole area.
I lived in Fitzroy for 4 years. It was awesome. I loved it.
Like Brunswick Street used to be cool. It's not anymore. Anyway.
That's because I left.
you go there and you're like, wow.
Yeah.
They wear different things.
Oh,
they
yeah.
look different. Their shops are different. There's rubbish, graffiti.
To be fair,
everywhere.
Fitzroy, Brunswick, etc., is very different to the rest of the north as well.
Yeah. Brunswick's Fitzroy's always been bohemian.
I grew up in Preston, which is only another 5-6 k's
Yeah.
further north from there, and we didn't look at the people in Fitzroy as normal people at all.
Yeah. It's a bit like St Kilda. St Kilda's
Yeah.
always been
Yeah,
bohemian.
it's always-
Yeah.
yeah.
But, I just
Bunch
find
of
it so
pretentious pricks.
funny. But it's like, they all ride bikes and they all stay there. And so they're so engrossed in their little community that the idea that there's people outside of it is like almost foreign to them.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, that insular kind of mentality exists for political ideologies as well. And these vegan activists, these people that are trying to take down, commercial agriculture is the devil. Okay, well, let's get rid of all machinery involved in agriculture. And now we'll just have to go back to where 93% of the population is directly involved in growing food. Otherwise, we starve.
yes.
Like that's all. No big deal.
Yeah.
No big deal.
And you might actually have to go do some work
Yeah,
yourself.
and those hemp pants will become non-optional because that's the highest quality fiber you're going to be able to get at the wages that you'll have because you're spending all day hand harvesting wheat.
Well, do you know what I found really interesting? And we've got to wrap it up because we're almost at the 3-hour mark. During COVID, because all the borders were closed, we didn't have any backpackers. So all the fruit growers couldn't, all the fruit went to waste.
It's a problem.
No Australians who were locked down, none of the baristas who couldn't work thought, I'll just go into the country and I could actually work. And you were outside of restrictions.
Those vegans who claim to love vegetables so much couldn't get on their bike and go out and pick cherries,
And that brings me back to that whole supermarket thing that I talked about, right? Like people walk past things. You get on your social media and you sit there and rant and rave and carry on. But when push comes to shove, you won't take any action.
No.
It's all hollow.
It's Coney 2012 all over again.
Yeah.
There we go. We've just segued beautifully all the way
Did you
around.
like that?
Nice little bookmarks
Just like
there.
little...
The bookends, sorry, not
tidied
bookmarks.
it up
Nice little
for us.
bookends.
Yeah. We covered
beautiful.
a lot. We covered a nuclear fallout,
Gosh.
nuclear war. We've
6
covered
different ways for the world to end.
Yeah, I think we ended on a little bit more happier.
I think it's been a very light and dark episode. It's been very
roller
very up and
coaster.
down. Yeah.
We're just keeping you guys entertained. But I am going to remind you guys, please share the show. We didn't get that
Please
many
do.
subscribers last week.
No,
and it
that's
made me
okay.
sad.
Look, you're going to have some good weeks. You're going to have some bad ones.
No,
but
don't
guys,
say that to them. You will do it.
No,
I
but
will
guys,
berate you.
We've got really big things coming.
We do.
As we have.
We haven't talked about the live show.
Oh, yes.
That starts next week.
It can start next
Yeah.
week if you're up for it.
I'm up for it.
So I've got clearance for either the Monday or the Tuesday. Either of those
think
can be made
Monday's
to
better.
work for the family. All right, let's do Monday.
All right, so now you're hearing it here first.
Yeah.
We've just had the conversation.
Yeah.
We are going to do a live show every Monday. Similar kind of thing, but this is where you guys get to talk to us.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Ranty, make your video. That's where you can talk to us.
Yeah, you can do it live.
Yeah.
7 p.m.
7 p.m. on Monday.
1 hour only. We're not dragging this one out.
No. This
you
is
get
a
in there with your
short,
comments. You get in there with your let's have a conversation. Let's smash through some news.
And what we'll do is we'll go down the news cycle.
Yep.
And we're not going to do the deep dives that we do
No,
here.
no.
So if you've got any questions, anything that you want us to elaborate on, anything that you feel like we should be addressing, and then in the podcast,
We can slow down.
Yeah.
Tangents during the live will be done at double speed. We'll have to just talk really, really fast.
Be maniacal.
Yeah.
No, and you guys can super chat with us. We can talk.
Yeah.
And are we going to do it so that your channel and my channel, not my channel, our channel.
We'll go out to both of our channels. Yeah.
Yeah. And then,
Yep.
So
away we go.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So if you haven't already, please subscribe.
Yes.
Follow Topher.
At Topher Field.
And follow me at Carlz J Soda. And support the show by sharing it, telling people about it. By the way, last week we had our biggest downloads through Spotify and Apple ever.
Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you everyone for the support, for the love. Make sure you follow us on YouTube as well. At
We do
the
need you
Oddcast HQ.
to subscribe. Those subscription numbers are important.
Even
for a
if
lot
you're
of
listening
reasons.
on some other platform entirely, please just jump across to YouTube, log into your channel, subscribe to at the Oddcast HQ. It would be much appreciated.
Someone has asked me if I'm going to put up the videos on the Spotify, to which I'll say they're on YouTube.
Yeah, they're on YouTube. Go across to YouTube.
They need to be on YouTube.
Yeah. We need to feed that beast.
Yes.
Yep.
Merch. When will we drop it? It's going to go on your website?
Yeah. Well, we'll put it up as products. Absolutely.
Yeah.
How soon can you have it ready? We need to get a couple of test prints done. See them in person. So I'd say we're probably still 3-4 weeks away.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Realistically.
Yeah. Perfect.
All right,
guys. On that note, thank you for any of you who are super chatted tonight watching this in the premiere. You didn't join us last week.
No, I couldn't, and I won't be able to tonight either. You know what the problem is? I look after the kids after I get home. Eddie will do work or other things, and they're up still, and I can't have our potty mouths and the topics we talk about with a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 9-year-old.
No, that would be inappropriate.
That's not ideal.
We don't need them to know about Bonnie Blue.
So Topher and Carlz, if you could just tone down the content for the first hour of the podcast, then that'd be good.
But we have chats. You're not there, but it's me chatting to you.
Oh.
So thank you for the super chats. Thank you for the support. And next Monday coming,
yep,
will be our first live show. It will only be on YouTube. Yep. This one, will we put it on Spotify? Probably not.
I don't think so. No, I think this is YouTube pure
only.
YouTube. It'll be on the Oddcast HQ YouTube. It'll be on my Topherfield YouTube as well. But please, even if you follow me on Topherfield, go across and follow at the Oddcast HQ as well.
Yeah.
And it'll be good fun.
All right, guys. On that note, we will let you go because we need to go.
Yes.
So I can do that.
Are you going to the upstairs loo or the downstairs loo?
I'm going downstairs.
Okay, I've got the upstairs. Right.
That's what happens.
We've got to coordinate. Right. We're out of here. Bye.